Nearly there. Chair, we're streaming to YouTube now.
Well, thanks, Maisie. Good evening, everyone. My name is Councillor Brian Oldham. I am the chairman of the Northampton Borough Council Planning Committee. I've got a couple of notices to say before we start the meeting proper. The first notice is recording of the virtual planning committee meetings. The public have a right to record this meeting by filming or other means while it is open to the public. If members pass a resolution to exclude the public from part of the meeting, then the right to record will not apply to that part of the meeting. For that reason, if a resolution is passed to exclude the public, then for the part of the meeting to which the public do not have access, the live streaming of this meeting will be switched off and resumed if the meeting again becomes open to the public. So that's the first notice. The second one is members and officers, you're all probably aware of the sad passing away of Councillor John Caswell at the weekend. John was a former mayor of the Northampton Borough and also briefly sat on the planning committee a few years ago. I'm sure you'll share with me in passing on to his wife, Cheryl, and her family our sincere condolences and sympathies at this very difficult, sad and grieving time. Thank you very much. Right, first item on the agenda, apologies. Ed, are there any apologies, please?
Thank you, Chair. We've received apologies from Councillor Carley.
Thank you. Deputations and public addresses. We have 13 speakers. One or two might be speaking on a couple of items. And we have on item 3, declarations of interest and predetermination. Do we have any, please? Committee, show of hands if you have one.
Councillor Mary Markham is indicating, Chair.
Councillor Markham, Mary, good evening. Yes, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, Councillor Mary Markham. I have a predetermination on item 9A and will leave the meeting for this item and not take part in any discussions.
Councillor Birch is indicating, Chair.
Councillor Birch, Jane, yeah. Jane, are you with us?
Councillor Birch needs to unmute your microphone.
I'm the county councillor for item 9C, but that may not be relevant in light of my previous question.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Before I go any further, if there's no one else registered under the declarations of interest and predetermination, this is my fault. I'm sorry. I should have asked before we started. Could you give a list of the rundown of the members who's taking part and the officers, please?
Absolutely, Chair. Tonight's planning committee members joining us are the Chair, Councillor Oldham, the Deputy Chair, Councillor Lane. We've got Councillors Kilbride, Councillor Russell, Councillor Brian Markham, Councillor Botwood, Councillor Mary Markham, Councillor Matt Golby, Councillor Arthur McCutcheon, Councillor Jane Birch, Councillor Enam Hack. Planning officers tonight are Peter Bagley, Rita Bovey, Nikki Scaife, Hannah Weston, Adam Smith and Teresa Boyd, planning solicitor, and Democratic Services officers include myself, Maisie McInnes and Tracy Tiff.
I take it from that, Ed, there are 11 members present then?
Correct, Chair, we have 11 members tonight.
Thank you very much. Sorry about that, thank you. Right, going on to item 4, committee, matters of urgency, there are none. Now we go on to item 5, list of current appeals and inquiries. Rita, this is your report. Would you like to present it, please?
Thank you, Chair. If you turn to page 1 of the agenda, in fact, we don't have that much update. It is a similar situation as last week. we are still waiting for the planning inspectorate to come back with decisions. So there's nothing further to add at this juncture. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Rita. Committee, any queries, any comments or questions to Rita on that brief report?
Nobody indicating, Chair.
Thank you. So you're happy that we accept Rita's report as updated? Show of hands, please. Keep your hands up.
Count 10 hands. I can't see Councillor Golby, Chair.
Is he there? He said he would have to leave the meeting at some time, but he didn't say when. Has he gone?
He's just come back.
Councillor Golby, Matt, can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry, my internet completely dropped out. I just reconnected.
We're on item 5, Matt, where Rita gave the update on the list of current appeals. There's not much to bring up to date. It's as is in the report.
Chair.
So I'm now asking if everybody's happy that we accept Rita's report. I think it's just waiting for your vote.
Chair, it's Peter here, Chair.
Yeah.
Can I suggest that Councillor Golby doesn't vote because he did miss the discussion, even though it's a very small item?
Okay, all right. All right, Matt, just sit it out. So there should be 10 voters in.
There were 10 votes, Chair, that's correct.
That's fine, that's approved. Okay, thank you. Right, now we come on to item 6A. 6A is and this is on page number 3. And it's an application for the permanent diversion of a footpath at Dayrell Road development, land rear of Hunsbury Park Primary School, Dayrell Road. I believe, Nikki, this is your report. Would you just like to present it, please?
Thank you, Chair. So members may recall, this is the application site. Sorry, apologies. Can everybody see the presentation? Because my screen's blocked everybody else out.
No.
You can't see the presentation?
No.
Okay. See it now?
Coming, yes. Yes, got it.
Okay, apologies for that. Thank you. This is the application site here. Members may recall approving residential development on land to the rear of Hunsbury Park Primary School for 73 dwellings back in March of this year. This is the plan showing the proposed diversion. There's an existing bridleway which is marked in the solid line that you can see here that runs along the south of the site and then up along the eastern boundary. As part of the development of the site, it's proposed to divert part of this bridleway where this dashed line is here. So just a slight diversion along the southern and eastern boundary of the site. So this is the approved layout for the residential development. The reason for the diversion, the developers were trying to make the most efficient use of the land, and the layout therefore meant that some of the gardens along this southern boundary extended along the line of the existing bridleway, and there's also a swale along the eastern boundary that's required to mitigate drainage for the site that also extends across the. So therefore, the making of the diversion order would enable this planning permission, which has already been granted, to be carried out, whilst retaining the bridleway in use, albeit on a. So Officer recommendation is therefore that an order be made to permanently divert part of the public right-of-way BH4 as shown on the submitted plan. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Nikki. Committee, we've got no speakers on this. Any questions to ask of Nikki on this, please?
No councillors are indicating, Chair.
Thank you, Ed. So therefore, do I have a proposal that we accept the officer's recommendation, that we accept this as it is read in the report? Do I have somebody who propose it, please?
Councillor Lane's got his hand in the air, Chair.
Councillor Lane, Jamie, seconder, Councillor Botwood, Alan, yeah. All those in favour, please? Show of hand.
Councillor Birch, can you turn your... Very dark, Councillor Birch. I can count 10 hands in the air. Thank you for everybody who is. Oh, Councillor Birch. That's 11 hands with Councillor Birch.
Thank you. So that's approved unanimously. Thank you very much, committee. Thank you. Right, we now go on to item 7, to which is Northamptonshire County Council applications. There are none. Item 8, Northampton Borough Council applications. There are none. So we now come on to the main thrust of the evening, item 9, which is the items for determination. And we start off with item 9A, which is an erection of a purpose-built student accommodation comprising of 347 rooms with 356 bed spaces. Now, you've obviously seen this on your agenda, so I won't read it all out. Anna, I believe this is your report. Would you like to present it, please?
Thank you, Chair. The application is for student halls and to convert a listed building into a student hub with retail units as well. We've seen there's one late representation we received in the addendum. A further letter has also been received since this was published, also objecting to the students' hall in this location and the traffic impact of this. These letters do not raise any new matters that are not covered in the report. Let's take you through the application. This is the application site. You can see it is located on the southern side of Bective Road, and it runs up toward Yelvertoft Road to the south. To the west is a row of commercial shops, and a lot of the surrounding area is residential terrace dwellings. To show an aerial view, you can see the existing flat roof shops to the west, and then this is the application site, a former factory. So the application includes a listed building. It's in two parts. This is the 1924 extension that has up till recently been in use. And then this is the older 1902 original building for the Abraham Lee Boot and Shoe factory. This part of the building is in a very poor state of repair. Just to show you an internal view of the building, you can see it is not in a good condition, and we do need urgent works to ensure its retention. The inside of the site, you can see it's fairly derelict. Further down, these buildings you can see in the back are also part of the factory, and they are to be demolished as part of the application. This is Yelvertoft Road and terrace, as you can see, and I'll just show you the next photo. So the site is here on the right, and this is the character running down to Harbour Road. So this photo shows the site looking up Bective Road. So these are the flat roof retail units I pointed out. This is the site running from here all the way up to here. So these are the listed buildings that are remaining, and these buildings would be demolished and a new building would be erected up to the car park for the retail units. And then just to show you further up Bective Road, you can see it is residential terrace properties that characterise the area. So the proposal is for student halls and the conversion of the listed building. So the listed building I showed you is this section here, and I'll just run through that proposal first. So on the ground floor, it is proposed to convert it to have 2 retail units at the front. And then at the back would be for student use. So you'd have a common room where students could meet up, cycle store and bin store, and then a plant room. At first floor, you would have a gym and then some offices for the shops. The elevations remain largely unchanged. However, there are a few new windows and doors, which are designed to be in character with the existing building. The Conservation Officer has been consulted on the proposal, and he raises no objection, identifying that this would secure the long-term retention of the building. So to take you to the rest of the proposal for the student halls. So the proposal is for 107 flats, which would in total 347 rooms with 356 bed spaces. All rooms are en suite and all flats have individual kitchens. So for example, we have a cluster flat here. You can see each room is en suite, and then this blue area would be the kitchen for that cluster flat. Blocks A to D referred to in the report are these 4, so A, B, D, D, and they appear as terrace rows when looked at Preventative Road and Yelvertoft Road. Blocks E and F are E and F, placed behind the listed building, and again they appear as a terrace road from the street scene. Just to show you the first floor plan, you can see it's similar to the ground floor, mainly cluster flats with shared kitchens, and similarly for the second floor. There is a basement included with this proposal, which has 36 spaces, 4 of which are disabled parking spaces, and a condition is attached requiring EV charging as part of this. These spaces are not proposed for the student occupiers. They are for blue badge holders, so students that do need them, and for the employees on the site. The proposal includes a minibus and a clause in the lease that students shall not bring their own vehicles. And NCC Highways have been consulted on the proposal and raised no objection to the scheme. This is subject to contributions towards alterations to traffic regulation, maintenance of bus shelters, monitoring of a travel plan, and having that clause requiring no cars for the students and for the minibus to continue for the life of the development. So if I show you the elevations of the scheme. So as I said, it does largely look like a continuation of a row of terraces, albeit a more modern design with flat roofs. So on the top, you can see the view from Yelvertoft Road. So this is the block that's behind the listed buildings set down. A good separation to the neighbouring property. And then this is the commercial units I pointed out. And then from Preventative Road, you have the listed buildings, which would look the same as now. And then you have your blocks going down here. And this is the entrance into the basement. To assist, you will have noticed in the report, I mentioned a permission that they can currently build on the site that has permission and was granted at appeal in 2016. So I provided a comparison here so you can easily see what's approved and what's now proposed. The one that's approved is at the top. So this one for Yelvertoft Road and this one for Preventative Road. The one that they can build at the moment is between 11 and 14 metres high. What they're now proposing is 9.3 metres high at the most, reducing to 6.3 metres when it reduces to 2 stories. It's also now got a greater distance gap with the neighbouring property on Yelvertoft Road. And you'll notice a significant increase in the gap with the listed building, which helps in its setting. If you notice the red line, this is what can be built on the site, so the picture above, and you'll see that what's now proposed is far smaller than what they can build on the site. With the proposal being smaller in bulk from the street scenes and including the listed building, which it did not previously, and securing its long-term retention. The recommendation is for approval in principle, subject to Section 106. This Section 106 is to require contributions to construction training, traffic regulation alterations, maintenance of bus shelters, monitoring of a travel plan, that the listed building works are completed prior to first occupation of the halls, that there's a clause for no car use, and that the minibus continues for the life of development. So it's recommended it's approved in principle subject to that Section 106 requirements. And if it's not completed within 3 months, give the Director of Planning and Sustainability delegated authority to refuse or finally dispose at his discretion. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Anna. Well, we have 2 speakers on this, and before I call the first speaker, this is for a general note for all speakers. For those who don't know, speakers, you'll have 3 minutes, up to 3 minutes, no more. And if you just remain with us when you finish your statement, in case the committee have got any questions to ask of you, I'd be very grateful. So I call upon the first speaker on this application, which is Councillor Sally Beardsworth. Councillor Beardsworth, are you with us, please?
Right. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you, Sally. You need to identify yourself and in what
I will.
I'm for the record, please.
I am Councillor Sally Beardsworth. I'm the councillor for the adjoining ward to this, which is Kingsthorpe, and I'm speaking in opposition to the plans.
Okay, you have. Thank you, Sally. You have three minutes, please. Thank you.
Chair, I'm staggered to see this is being brought before us with the pandemic going on at the moment. I just don't believe that we should be building battery farmed accommodation for students when we're going through such a traumatic time. The idea that people will not bring cars to this area is ridiculous, because students will be given cars by their parents, their grandparents, and will park them in the adjoining streets, which is over congested now. I cannot believe why the Highways Department hasn't put in a complaint about this, because they know it's oversubscribed for parking. And even if you sign a waiver, I've dealt with student accommodation all my life as a councillor, and I can assure you they promise you the earth and deliver very little as regards noise, as regards parties, as regards parking in the wrong place. So I have very little faith in this letter that they're talking about that people will sign and it will be enforced. The other thing is that the university now is 3 miles away. We should be encouraging students to walk and cycle, not go in a minibus. And there's places nearer to the university that people can go to. We shouldn't be, we're talking about social distancing now of 2 meters, and you're putting 350 students jam-packed into one building on adjoining streets where there's a lot of elderly residents as well who've lived there all their life in comparative calm. I really, really think you really ought to rethink this one. I think there could be so much better uses for this building, indoor markets, all sorts of things, providing education and job opportunities for people starting up small businesses. I really think this is a remedy for disaster, and I think it's morally reprehensible to actually put so many people together when we've been through a pandemic or going through one. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Beardsworth. If you'll just remain with us in case the committee have got any questions to ask of you. Committee, if you've got any questions to ask of Councillor Beardsworth, please raise your hand if you have, please.
Nobody's indicating, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor Beardsworth. Thank you. And I'll call upon Jennifer Smith, please.
Hello, Chair. My name's Jennifer Smith. I'm the agent for the application.
Okay, you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Before you this evening is a planning application with a linked listed building consent application for student accommodation to provide 356 bed spaces, along with associated facilities and car parking on the site of the former Abraham Lee Boot Factory on Bective Road. Members will be aware that permission was previously granted for a 293 bed space student accommodation scheme on this site. The permission has been implemented and that the applicant could complete that development without the need for any further planning permissions. The principle of development for student accommodation has been established on this site. The main difference between the implemented scheme and the application before you this evening is that this application incorporates the listed buildings and propose that these be used as a central feature in the development. They will be restored and accommodate shops, gym and communal facilities for students. The scheme allows for an increase in the number of student bedrooms, but in a building that is smaller in height than the approved scheme. This proposal therefore demonstrates clear benefits over the implemented scheme. While providing additional student bedrooms has the potential to reduce the number of Hmos in operation, thereby returning family homes to the town, this scheme also provides for higher quality student accommodation and the restoration of the listed building. The restoration of the listed building delivers significant public benefits and represents a viable use for the structure. There are very few uses that this building lends itself to, and the communal living elements of this scheme are accommodated successfully in the available space. The applicant has worked closely with officers of the council as well as the Northamptonshire Police, who have been heavily involved in the design that is before you this evening for consideration. There are no technical objections to the application, and the applicant is agreeable to the Section 106 agreement, which includes a traffic regulation order in respect of on-street car parking. The development is proposed to be controlled by condition, and I would draw your attention to these specifically in relation to the control of development during the construction phase, and also the requirement to provide a student management plan. These allow the authority to control the development both during construction and once it's operational. Your officers have recommended approval for this development. In this report, they clearly highlight that the principle of residential development is established on the site. Officers highlight the key benefits of the scheme over the implemented consent, which include a new building which is lower in height than the approved, which is up to 5 metres in part. Officers also consider the development will add to the vitality and viability of the local area, particularly in respect of the local shops at Kingsthorpe. Having regard to all of the developments, all of the benefits of this proposal, we respectfully request that you accept your officer advice and vote to approve the application this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. If you just remain with us in case the committee's got any questions to ask of you. I've just got one point. In 6.6, it's, and Councillor Beardsley referred to this, it says request conditions on a site management plan, a clause in the lease prohibiting car ownership. Could you explain how you would administer that, please?
Yes, of course. Condition 16, proposed condition 16, as set out in the committee report, refers to a student management plan, which we've developed in association with the Northamptonshire Police. We've had several meetings with them, and they're quite satisfied that this is something that could be implemented successfully. It's been done elsewhere in the town. And it's subject to a planning condition. And as I'm sure members will be aware, planning conditions are something that are enforceable, and therefore it falls within the control of the local authority to enforce against that condition if permission is granted.
Thank you. Committee, anyone got any questions to ask of Jennifer, please?
Councillors Lane and Hack are indicating, Chair. Also McCutcheon and Brian Markham.
Right, I'll take them in what you've given me. Councillor Lane, Jamie, yes?
Thank you, Councillor Jamie Lane here. I've got 3 questions, so if I can, I'll give all 3 and then Jennifer can answer them rather than keep going backwards and forwards. My first question is why at this time, when the university has moved out of Kingsthorpe and into the town centre, are they planning, how are they going to plan to market this to students when clearly they want to be nearer to the university, not further away? Who will run the minibus service? And will that run at the weekends? And also, if memory serves me right, on the original application, there were light wells in the property, and it was really nicely set out. And those seem to have disappeared from the new plan. Thank you.
Well, Jennifer, yeah.
Sorry, I'm still writing the questions down. Give me 1 second.
It's all right.
Okay, so the first question related to why has this application come forward at this time, and how are we going to market the development? The application is made on behalf of a student accommodation provider. They feel that there's still a market for student accommodation within Northampton. This application has been with the authority for about a year because we've been discussing it at length with officers. In terms of timing, that's not specific, but obviously there's already an extant consent on this site for a slightly smaller scheme, and the operators consider that there's still a market for student accommodation. In terms of who will run the minibus, that will be undertaken by the U3, who are the provider of the site. I assume that it will run all week. I know that the requirement of the condition is that it will run for the life of the development. And in respect of you refer to the light wells that are in the scheme, you will see that this scheme actually redesigns this into a more efficient form. So the light wells are gone, but what we've got in the centre of each of the blocks is a communal garden, and the communal garden now provides that light source in, but it also provides external space, which I don't believe was present in the quality that we've got it shown as in the scheme now.
Thank you. Now, I believe you said Councillor Hack.
Correct, Chair.
Councillor Hack, Enham, yes.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Hi, Jennifer. I've got two questions for you. If I may draw your attention to point 6.12, Northamptonshire Police are requesting a condition requiring security measures to be implemented on site. What measures would you be implementing? What security measures, and how? And the second question is that this site will obviously have, well, it's a major development. Will have, no matter what you say, students will have cars, as Councillor Pierce mentioned, that students will be given cars by the parents, grandparents, and they'll be buying themselves. The parking issue, how would you implement that? How would you put some measures in place to minimize the problem? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Jennifer, yes.
I just want to draw your attention to proposed condition 16, which relates to the student management plan, which has been, the full site management plan for this site has been developed with the police. So what we've done is we've undertaken two things with the police in respect of security measures. The first relates to the design of the building, and the design of the building has been forensically assessed by the police in terms of doorways, openings, window openings, provision of routes and routes through the scheme. The original proposal that we made to the council last summer involved 4 blocks that ran north to south across this, which were gated between them. And what members will now see is that actually there are no, or the number of external openings onto the street have been reduced, and that the gaps between the buildings have been filled in so that they actually have buildings between them. And this is so that the number of entrances and exits from the building are secure and they're controlled, and the pathways within the buildings are also controlled, so that once you're inside the complex, there are a limited number of places that people can go other than to their own bedrooms. So that's reflected in the site plan that you can see before you. Condition 16 sets out the full site management plan, which again, this condition has been developed in association with the police. There's a draft site management plan that's been submitted to the council already, which is to the satisfaction of the police. And this clearly sets out about the process of managing movement of students, code of conduct, security controls, including specific design of doorways and entry keys within the site, the use and location of CCT, the external lighting, and also about the control of the fire alarm system as well. So I hope that answers the first question. The second one in relation to cars and how we propose to implement that, referring back to condition 16, each of the students will be required to sign up to a code of conduct, which also requires that they don't keep cars. And one of the parts of the Section 106 agreement relates to a traffic order, which will also involve parking on local streets. So that's how Northamptonshire County Council see that the control of cars will be controlled from an external point of view, while the operator will control it from an internal point of view by having students to sign up to the code of conduct.
Right, thank you, Jennifer. I believe the question was from Councillor McCutcheon. Ed, was it? Councillor McCutcheon?
Correct, Chair. Councillor McCutcheon, then Brian Markham and Councillor Russell's indicating also.
Okay, so Councillor McCutcheon. Arthur, please. Thank you. Can't hear him.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, can hear you now, Arthur. Yeah.
Okay, and my question is actually to the officers and not to Ms. Smith.
Okay, I'll come back to that in a bit then, Arthur. Thank you very much. Right, Councillor Markham, Brian.
Actually, my questions have all been answered, and I think answered to my satisfaction. So I'm happy to leave it at that, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. No one else got any questions?
Councillor
No?
Russell had indicated, Chair.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Beg your pardon, Catherine. Councillor Russell, Catherine, yeah.
Thank you. Questions to Jennifer. Firstly, I'd like to know what kind of soundproofing there's been in the different flats and rooms. And I'd also like to know how people are going to access the underground car park and what provision there's going to be for security there. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Jennifer, please. Thank you.
Sorry, Chair. So in respect of soundproofing, the application was accompanied by a noise assessment, and you will see from the proposed conditions, I think it's condition 17, which specifically relates to noise coming from the site, not just in terms of student noise, which I'm assuming is what you're mainly referring to, but also in relation to plant and machinery that's being proposed on site. So that's subject to planning condition. And the second point in relation to underground car parking, there are gates which will contain the car parking, which goes, the car parking is obviously in a basement, it's underground. We've looked very carefully about the way in which the car parking will be controlled. Again, we had lots of discussion with the police liaison officer about this, and we've submitted additional plans which show the gates being set back from the roadway in such a way that allows the car to stand clear of the highway, but it will only be for staff that are able to park in that car park, and therefore it would only be staff that would have access to it unless you were a disabled student.
Well, thank you, Jennifer. There's nobody else got any questions of Jennifer? No? Right, thank you, Jennifer. Thank you for that. Anna, before I open it up to the committee to ask you any questions, have you got anything you'd like to come back on that you've heard?
Yes, please, Chair. If I can just show you the ground floor plan again, just to clarify some of the points that were raised. So these sections here that are grassed, these are the internal open areas. So where the light was referred to, these are open areas that would bring light into the building. So there's one between each of the blocks. And with regard to the access to the basement, this is the gates here that you can see. And we have worked extensively with the police to make sure it is safe, even down to getting a zebra crossing in for the students for that access point. And the links have worked through so that the students can only access their flats and can't get into every block, only the block that they are in. So that has been looked at in detail. And yeah, I think that was everything that was raised. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Anna. Right, I'm opening it questions to Hannah in our committee. If you'd like to just show of hands, if anybody's got any questions to ask of Anna, please. I can see you, Andy, so I'll take you first, Councillor Kilbride. Andy. Got to unmute yourself, Andy.
Yeah,
okay.
Through you, Chair. I just wanted to pick up on what Hannah said there. The students can only accept going to each block of flats. Are they limited to each floor as well?
Hannah?
Through you, Chair, thank you. Yes, so we've looked at it in detail. There's 2 stair cores. Maybe if I share it again, just to make it easier for everyone. So when you come in, so there's two main entrances. This is the main entrance, primary arrival, and there's one stair core here and one stair core here for that one. And you can only get into the stair core that leads to your flats on the other floors. So if you lived in this flat, you wouldn't be able to get into these stair cores because it's not your flat. There's only link throughs the site here, which doesn't lead into any of the flat entrance. So you can see there's doorway access controls to each section. So if you are walking through, you can't get into these flats because you won't have the code to get in here. So the police have looked at it in detail to try and ensure that it is safe and monitourable.
Right.
Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you. Anyone else got a question to ask of Anna? Councillor Botwood, I can see you. Alan, yeah. Can't hear you, Alan.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Can hear you now.
Yeah. It follows on from what's already been said, Chair. And I appreciate there's been a lot of work done with the police by the developers and also the officers. The two issue, well, the one real issue that hits me all the time is the cars. Now, having had two girls go to university and they go in halls of residence, a lot of people turn up to get them there with a lot of stuff that they're going to need, and then they go and pick them up. And then obviously when the girls went out at night, they didn't have cars, but they went out with people that did. And they came back at all sorts of hours and created a lot of noise and inconvenience. And I just wonder how far, as a council, we've actually looked into that problem.
Thank you. Anna, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. Yes, so I mean, the main thing to consider is that there is a permission on this site for student halls. So the principle is established, and because it's established and they can build it, in planning terms, we can't now go against the principle of providing student accommodation on this site. However, we have tried to make sure we have considered all these points. So condition 16 requires details of the process for managing students to move into and out of the development. And that is to get the details of how they will manage when everyone turns up to deliver their goods to the rooms, and if there's time scales, for example, of doing that. So that is what we use with student halls to control that issue. In regards to parking, obviously we have tried to secure that students wouldn't bring their cars through having it in the section 106 and through condition. And we have consulted County Council Highways, and they've raised no objection to the scheme, and therefore that's just, in planning terms, there's no reason to object to the parking because Highways haven't raised any objection to it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Anna. Ed, anyone else off my screen?
Yes, Chair. Councillors Hack, Russell, McCutcheon and Lane.
Right. I'll take them in that order. Councillor Hack, Enham, questions to Anna, please.
Hi, Anna. Yeah, the NCC planning has requested that we put a condition for required to have a library. Do you know what has happened to that?
Anna?
Yeah, and yes, we don't have any policy support for requiring contributions to libraries, so that's not something we can require developers to provide.
Right. And the next one, Ed, was who? Ed?
It was Councillor Russell, Chair.
Councillor Russell. Catherine, please. Yeah.
Thank you. Hannah, I understand you can't have the answers to everything all the time, but I would like to know, my understanding is that the enrolment at the University of Northampton has dropped off quite significantly, and that was before COVID-19. So if it turns out that these halls or these flats or these rooms cannot be let, is there going to be an alternative? And if so, who will monitor that? Thank you.
Anna, yeah.
For you, Chair, thank you. Yes, so I mean, obviously we can't know what will happen in the future, but if they did want to do anything else on the site, if they built this scheme and then there wasn't a need for it, they would need planning permission to use it for any other purpose. So we would then assess at that stage whether anything else is possible on that site that they apply for. So that's how we would assess the future of the site if there was an issue with having students on there.
Thank you. Councillor Lane, Jamie?
No, sorry, Chair, mine's a comment.
Oh, right, we'll come to that. Councillor McCutcheon, Arthur?
At the moment.
Yes, I can hear you, Arthur. Yeah.
Can you, right? I can't remember exactly who it was that made the comment, but whether it was Jennifer or one of the officers, but there was the voice the hope that in fact the accommodation which was presently Hmo's, in which students are renting rooms in that area, would be returned to family home market. And I wanted to know if there's any provision being made for that, and whether any provision ever could be made for deciding on what would be the future use of currently let accommodation. And another one was the question of what price has been put on the conditions that are being put on parking in the areas and what have you. It sounds very inspector heavy, and I want to know have any allowances been made for the cost of inspecting this. Thank you.
Anna, I don't know whether you can answer them, but you there, Anna?
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm here. Thank you, Chair. A Hmo comment was made by the agent. It's not part of our assessment as to whether it would move people out of Hmos into this change. If they had got planning permission to change to a Hmo, they would need to apply for planning permission to change back to a house, but we'd assess that at that point. With regards to the conditions, we have put on the conditions that we would put on for student halls and extra. So the section 106 includes contributions to traffic regulation alterations, maintenance of bus shelters, because students are most likely to be using buses more, and monitoring a travel plan to make sure they are complying with, for example, the minibus provision. So there are some contributions towards NCC Highways costs as a result of this, and that is what NCC Highways have asked for, and they haven't asked for any other contributions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Right, there's no more questions. Now we're coming on to comments. Well, Jamie, you did say that you've got a comment. Councillor Lane, Jamie, would you like to come in with a comment, please?
Yeah, thank you. It's several comments actually, Chair. First of all, this site has been absolutely derelict for many, many years. I think it must be 20 years now at least. And there have been applications to rejuvenate the area, put accommodation there. But actually, there have been plans to put student accommodation on there for many years, but nothing's been done. So I'm just wondering whether we approve this tonight and whether actually anything will actually get built on it. But also, I think the county councils also need to look at perhaps getting the county council to put parking permits on those terrace streets around the development to stop any students parking in those streets. However, I'm not sure why students want to live in Kingsthorpe, because it's so far from the new youth. And also, I don't think Waitrose would be a massive draw to the students to do their shopping. Parking is a huge concern, and also by reducing the height of the building, but you're putting more students in there. So their personal space must be being reduced. So clearly, the new accommodation is worse than the old one. And I'm not going to support this, I'm afraid, Chair. And that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else got any comments, please?
Councillor Brian Markham's indicating, Chair.
Oh, sorry, Brian. I can see it. Councillor Markham, Brian, yeah.
Yes, Chair. As a planning committee, we often have applications before us which we'd rather not have. They're not applications to build things that the community would like to see there. In fact, the council may not wish to see there. You know, obviously, to my mind, the terrace streets, my wife's family literally grew up in Bective Road. My wife grew up in that area. There's small terrace houses. Clearly, I'm sure members of the committee would rather see some sort of development to create those terrace streets, which actually this development tries to do, or recreate those terrace streets with affordable accommodation. However, we have to, as we can only make a decision on what we have before us. What we have before us is, to my mind, better, much better than the previous application. First of all, it makes use of the listed buildings, brings them hopefully back into use. It would provide reasonable and well managed student accommodation without, and I would only say hopefully, there's a massive increase in traffic. There are Hmo buses run down from Kingsthorpe down to the university already. Yeah, this is not what we want, but this is an application we have. And with all these conditions, 31 conditions of them, that have been obviously worked hard on by the developers and by the police, the Highways Authority, our own officers, then I think I would find the difficulty turning it down on planning grounds. It's not what I want to see, but it's all right. Councillor Lane said, well, I can't support this, but as a planning committee, we have to, if we can't support it, we have to give planning grounds as to why we are refusing that application. And there is already permission for student accommodation. To my mind, what do we say? My main concern would be, and I agree with Councillor Lane on this, and other speakers, that there's no indication, given the contraction of the number of students at the university, actually, that there is demand for this. But of course, that's for the developer, not for the planning committee to decide. I don't think it would probably be built, and that'd be a great shame, because something else should have been built if that's the case.
Right, thank you, Councillor Markham. Brian, anyone else got any comments?
Nobody's indicating, Chair.
No? Okay, well, then in that...
Chair, Councillor McCutcheon is indicating.
I beg your pardon, I'm so sorry.
Councillor McCutcheon, Arthur.
Right, thank you, Chairman. If we're summarising what it is.
Where you gone, Arthur? Arthur's gone.
Got it? No, have you got it now?
I've got it now, yeah.
Right. My question sounded a bit hostile, but I mean, the point has been made, and needs to be followed, and that is that this is the best application that we've got, i.e., it's the only one that we've got. We might want family accommodation and that sort of thing, which it was originally built as, or some of it originally was built as, terraced streets for families. That's not on offer for us. So this is the best that there is. And Brian Morgan's perfectly correct. We've had this empty site for a long time, and it's a damn sight more trouble as an empty site than it would be with this sort of development. It may be an over-intense development, but it's the best one there is in front of us, and that no profits, or at least not acceptable profits for developers, would be made from any other form of development than this sort of very intense student type accommodation, whether it goes to students or not. So I shall be voting for it as best of the bad show. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Arthur. Anyone else got any comments before I sum up my comments? Councillor Kilbride, Andy, yeah.
Through you, Chair. This is a badly used ground site. I think you'll offer good, safe accommodation for students, and I'm all for it. So I'll be supporting this.
Thank you, Andy. Anyone else that's off my screen? Ed, can you see anyone else? No?
Councillor Hack's indicating, Chair.
Oh, Councillor Hack. Enham, yeah, comments, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, as Councillor Lane said earlier on, that this site has been sitting there for more than 50 years on brownfield. It's derelict site. I do want to see something is being developed, but not as a big scale as this, but this is as Councillor McCutcheon has mentioned, that this is what we have in front of us, and this is something that better than nothing, and I would incline to support this application.
Thank you, Councillor Hack. Thank you. Anyone else? Ed? No?
Nobody's indicated.
Right, just in summing up myself, I mean, I've heard this has been a good, open and thorough debate. I go back to the first speaker, Councillor Bearsworth, and I know where she's coming from and what she said, and I take them on board. We're a classic case of the moral ground, if you like, or the principal ground against the planning ground. I can't find, like Councillor McCutcheon and Councillor Markham and Councillor Hack has said, any planning reasons why we should or conceivably can refuse this. The buildings, or it's been in dereliction for years. Wherever the student accommodation is, if it's in Northampton, it serves Northampton University. I know it's moved away from the Kingsthorpe area, but really on reflection, what's in front of us is a sound planning application. It's still extant from 293 rooms of a few years ago. So I can't see a planning reason where we could refuse this, and I would be mind to support it. But that is just my particular view. If there are no other comments, I now have to bring the committee into the fact that the officer's recommendation for this is approval in principle, subject to the S106 legal agreements, and they're very important, in my opinion, considering the connection to the highways comments. So I'd like a proposal that we accept the officer's recommendation, please. Do I have one?
Councillor McCutcheon, Chair.
Councillor McCutcheon's proposing. Do I have a seconder?
Councillor Hack.
Councillor Hack is seconding. So I'd like to have a show of hands for all those in favour that we accept the officer's recommendation to approve this in principle, please. If you keep your hands up until Ed's counted them.
I count 7 hands, Chair.
7-4. Okay, so anyone against?
Councillor Lane's got his hand in the air, just the one, Chair.
Any abstentions, please?
Nobody's indicating, Chair.
So that's 7-4, 1 against. And so in that respect, it's approved by majority decision. Thank you very much. Well, thanks for that, committee. We now come on to item 9B, but Councillor Birch and Councillor Markham, Mary Markham, have to rejoin the meeting. Can somebody let me know when they have?
Councillor Markham's back in the room, Chair.
Councillor Birch?
Councillor Birch is also here.
Right, welcome back, ladies. We're now on to item 9B, which is on page 29. And this is at 8 Palmerston Road, which is a change of use of office to house in multiple occupation for 4 occupants. It's all on the agenda. You can read it. I'm sure you've read it without me going over it. Rita, I believe this is your report. Would you like to present it, please?
Thank you, Chair. If you can bear with me, I call up the screen. Thank you. This is an application for a change of use. Can you see? Yeah.
Yeah.
Application for change of use from an existing offices to 4-person Hmo. Thank you. Members have already received the addendum through email this morning. Just to let you know that we have received additional comment from local residents, but the contents has already been covered by the officer's report. To show you, this is the application site. This is Palmerston Road. This is number 8, with St Edmunds Road to the north. This is the second property in, as you can see, which has currently 100% site coverage on the ground floor. Just an aerial photograph to show you the location. As I said, this is the application site, vacant office, and next door to that is a dwelling house. If I go back to that, members, you can notice that the other side, there's a much bigger former factory building, which is now used for flats. The proposal is to remove part of the rear ground floor area to provide a courtyard in here, so that you can put bin storage and cycle storage there, and also a first floor rear extension in deposition and 2 pitch roof dormers in there. This is a view from the site, from outside. As you can see, this is the second property in is the application site. The next door property has got a rear 2-story outrigger there. So with the proposal, with a 2-story extension will be behind this existing structure. So you probably just get a glimpse view from St Edmunds Road. There will be 2 pitch roof dormer to be erected in deposition. Again, if you notice on the other side, there is another quite a tall structure to the right, but there's no window opening to that. So this is just a photograph within the site. As I mentioned, this is the roof of the ground floor structure. So part of this will be removed to provide a courtyard in this position. So if you look back from the site, even with the 2-story extension, it will not provide any problem in terms of overlooking. This is just the existing site plan. It has got a basement area, so the 100% site coverage for the ground floor, first floor offices there. In terms of the proposed plan, you can see the basement will remain for storage. That is the part of the building to be removed to create a courtyard. They have a kitchen, living room on the ground floor. All the bedrooms, 3 of the bedrooms will be with ensuite, like this one with the ensuite facility. On the first floor, 2 bedrooms. This one has got ensuite, but this one will have access to a bathroom over there. On the second floor, there will be an extension to provide 2 pitch roof dormers. This bedroom again will have ensuite facility. The site is within a conservation area, the boot and shoe quarter. Just to show you, this is the section, as you can see there, existing. This is the, you can see it quite clearly with the removal of the ground floor. This is the extension of the back with flat roof and the dormers. So this is the elevation. You can see what it will look like. As I mentioned before, because there's an outrigger to the other side, so from the street, all this will be screened from the street view. Oh, sorry. To say the scheme was amended during the course of the application, reducing the number of residents from 6 to 4. So it is a much better layout now and facility to serve 4 occupants. In terms of the design, notwithstanding it is within a conservation area, the conservation officer has no objection to the scheme and consider that now with the pitch roof dormer will be more in keeping with the host building. In terms of concentration, with this included, it will go up to 4.9% within 50 meters radius of the site. So that will be in line with the Hmo SPD. County Council Highways have no objection to the application and the site it is within a parking permit zone area. Equally, private sector housing has no objection to the scheme and consider that the layout is satisfactory. So all in all, Chair, the proposal is considered to be in line with national and local policies, and the recommendation is therefore for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Rita. Well, we have 2 speakers on this application tonight. And I first call upon Councillor Danielle Stone, please. Good evening, Councillor Stone. If you just introduce yourself and in what capacity speak for the record, I'd be grateful, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm Danielle Stone. I'm one of the ward councillors for this area, and I'm speaking against the planning application, and I'm speaking against it.
Right, you have 3 minutes. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm speaking against it on behalf of local residents. I work very closely with the local residents of Palmerston Road and the whole of St Edmunds, but particularly Palmerston Road. I've been asked to object by a number of residents, and I believe some of them have also written in. People in this area are really struggling to make the most of this area. The potential for the area is great, but people are feeling very up against it because of all the antisocial behaviour, the parking pressures, the fly tipping, and all the rest of it that they're subject to. And I think it would be a real shame if the people who are the glue in that local community feel the need to move out. And that is what a lot of people are saying to me. We're working really hard to create community cohesion, but we need the borough to support what we're doing. And we want to have a balanced and cohesive community. And all of that effort that those people are making, they feel as if it's being undermined because of the high number of transient accommodations of different types, flats, Hmos, whatever, in that area. There's a huge amount of transients. There's also quite a large number of health workers who live on Palmerston Road because of its proximity to the hospital. And those people are really, really badly and negatively affected by the antisocial behaviour, the parking pressures, and all the rest of it. And it's some of those people that have asked me to object in actual fact. And I really take the point that Councillor Beardsworth made earlier, you know, that in this time of extreme stress and stress on the way that we relate to each other socially and what housing has come to mean, I think we need to be looking really carefully about the pressure we put our neighbourhoods under. This is a neighbourhood under a lot of stress already. And I think this is one Hmo too many. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stone. If you just remain with us in case the committee have got any questions to ask of you, please. Committee, do you have any questions to ask of Councillor Stone?
Nobody's indicating, Chair.
Right, thank you, Danielle. Thank you very much for that. And I call upon Ms. Gurjinder Dalaliwal. If I've got this wrong, please forgive me, but that's how I've tried to pronounce it. Mr. Daliwal, please. Is Mr. Dhaliwal with us, Ed?
It's in the meeting, Chair, yes. Microphone's on.
Can't hear him. Do we have a gremlin in the...
Maisie's just kicking him out and then readmitting him, seeing if that helps.
Oh, right. Metaphorically, I hope.
Yes, Chair. Maisie has sent him a message, Chair, but there's no response. I think he might have wandered away from his computer.
Well, in that place, because time is of the essence, we must crack on, really.
Yeah. Chair,
Sorry, Peter. Peter.
Yeah. Ed, do we have the speaker's proposed presentation?
Just a second. We didn't receive one from Gajinder, I'm afraid.
Well,
Okay,
the point is, go on, Peter, go on.
Yeah, can I just suggest we have one more call to see if the speaker is there? Is Gajinder there, please? You
I
make
don't mind. As long as
contact, or perhaps put your camera on to show us you there, but having trouble hearing us.
time being of the essence, but no problem with that. Doing all we can to try and get him involved. Yeah. Do we have him on camera, Ed?
I'm afraid not, Chair, no.
I'm afraid then, Peter, this
I've
might
asked
be...
the speaker to... I've asked the speaker to share their video, but then I don't think they're responding.
I think we shall have to carry on, Peter, I'm afraid.
I agree with you, Chair, thank you.
They've left the meeting.
Right, so we'll carry on. Rita, before I do open the forum to asking you of any questions, would you like to come back on anything that Councillor Stone has raised, please?
Nothing, Chair, because all the information is contained in the report. Thank you.
Okay, right, thank you. Well, committee, it's now questions to Rita, please. Anyone got any questions to Rita?
Councillor McCutcheon's indicating, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor McCutcheon. Arthur, would you like to ask a question of Rita, please? You keep ebbing and flowing, Arthur.
Councillor McCutcheon, you need to turn your microphone on.
Yeah, you're on mute at the minute, Arthur. Can you put your mic? Can you switch your microphone on? That's it. Well, now it's come back off again. Can you get your microphone on? You've got it on mute at the minute, Arthur. Can you switch your microphone on? You've got it on mute. Try and work that out, Arthur. In the meantime, I'll go to Councillor Hack. Enham, you've got your hand up, I believe.
Yeah, thank you, Chair.
Yeah.
Rita, it says on 7.2, the concentration of HMOs, there are other 3 existing HMOs in that particular area within 50 meters radius. But we know, I'm one of the ward councillors there, and I know for a fact there are more unlicensed HMO within the area. which are being under investigation and being investigated by the Borough Council. That particular area is paying a price, in my view. There are a number of families who are either about to move out or have already moved out since the university has moved into town nearby. There are a number of HMOs, houses of single dwellings are being converted into HMOs. Some of them are regulated and some of them are not. So do we know for a fact it's only 3 there?
Rita, did you want to come back on that?
Yeah, through you, Chair. Obviously, we collect the information from various sources, from a survey, from private sector housing, from our enforcement team. Obviously, this is the most up-to-date information we've got. It is quite a big area, obviously. People may consider that in the area as whole, we'll have more HMOs, but within the this particular radius, maybe there are only 3. So it is quite misleading, but we're quite confident that that is the information that we have got within the council to make that informed decision. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Rita. Councillor McCutcheon. Arthur, are you back with us now? Yeah. Arthur, you got a question to Rita?
Councillor McCutcheon, you've muted your microphone again.
Maisie, were you able to?
No, all right, Arthur, can you hear us, Arthur?
I can hear you.
Right, now we can hear you. If you like the question to Rita. Yeah.
Right. Question is, are we quite sure that it is an office use that it's in at the present time, and that it's being used for that, or is it derelict, or has it been improperly occupied? Thank you.
Through you,
Rita?
Chair.
Yeah.
The application submitted for a change of use from offices, as you could see from earlier photographs, currently it's vacant. It's got a for sale sign or from the estate agent. So it was previously as offices. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions to ask of Rita, please?
Nobody's indicating, Chair.
Right, thank you, Ed. So we now come on to comments. Committee, I'm asking for comments on the application. Those of you, any of you have got any comments to mention
Councillor
on the?
McCutcheon, Councillor Russell.
Okay, Councillor McCutcheon. Arthur, would you like to make any comments, please?
You do this one, I'll run for a week.
Oh, Councillor McCutcheon and Councillor Russell.
Yeah, Arthur. Councillor McCutcheon, do you want to make your comments, please? Talk to me, Arthur. I'll come back to you, Arthur. Councillor Russell, Catherine, would you like to make your comments, please?
Thank you. I'd like to know, is this a comment or a question? Because I'd like to know why the number of was dropped from 6 to 4, because I think 4 is much more appropriate, obviously. And as 4, I would probably support it.
Right, the first part was an actual question, Catherine, but Rita very quickly want to come in on that one, why it went from 6 to 4.
Thank you, Chair. The original submission was for a slightly larger extension with a flat roof dormer. We didn't feel that it was appropriate, so the scheme was reduced in terms of the extension size. So as a result, 4 bedrooms provided with en-suite facilities. I think officer felt that it would be a much more appropriate development for the site. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Arthur, are you back with us? Councillor McCutcheon? We seem to have some gremlins with Councillor McCutcheon's communication. Any idea? Councillor Birch, I'll wait, Arthur, I'll come back. Councillor Birch, Jane, this is for comments. You got a comment, Jane?
Yeah, I have a comment. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Although we're not very happy with increased HMOs, and I do understand that Palmerston Road can be, very stressed and lots of problems with a transient population. This does have sufficient bathrooms and toilets for the number of people in the building, and it has been reduced from 6 to 4. I think it's very difficult on those two counts to actually object to this on planning grounds. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you. Councillor McCutcheon, Arthur, are you with us now?
Yeah, well, I'm hoping so.
Yeah, good man. It's nice to hear from you. Now you've gone off again. You've gone off. You're like a tap, you're off and on. Is there anything we can help Arthur out with his obviously technical difficulties? Because he obviously
Maisie, are we able to
I'm trying
unmute?
I'm trying to, but it's not working. I don't know if Councillor McCutcheon.
Ah, you're with us, Arthur, now. Can you come in now, Arthur?
Are you? Am I still with you?
Yes, come on, get going, son,
Okay.
before the going's good. Yeah.
So we've got here somebody who's actually making an application and wanting to be legal, whereas we're told that there's quite a lot of improper usages of HMOs around there. I know a number of the people there. I know people occupying places in Palmerston Road, and their view is that, in fact, if you had a settled population, which we are more likely to get with a proper application, then this could be better policed and that would, in fact, reduce antisocial behaviour if you had a settled population and they were applying to be. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Arthur. Anyone else got any comments to make? Ed? Is anybody there?
Councillor Lane's indicating, Chair. Apologies.
Apologies, Jamie. Councillor Lane, yes, go on, Jamie.
Yeah, I was just going to propose that we accept the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Take that as a proposal. So I've got a proposal that we accept the officer's recommendation from Councillor Lane. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Botwood, Alan, yeah. So by show of hands, all those in favour that we accept the officer's recommendation for approval on this, please.
I count 10 hands raised, Chair.
So that would be, right, 10 for. Anybody against?
Nobody indicating, Chair.
No abstentions?
Councillor Hack, just the one, Chair.
Thank you very much. Right, thank you for that. We now come on to item 9C committee. 9C, which is on page 39. The location is 8 Newnham Road for an alteration of shop front to ice cream kiosk to install counterstroke service window and new shutters to side window. Rita, this is your report. Would you like to present it, please?
Thank you, Chair. This page 39 of the agenda. This is quite a simple application. If I just show you. Yeah. This is the application site on Newnham Road. Remember that an application came before you last year for a change of use of this unit from a betting office to a beauty salon together with an ice cream parlor, and that was approved. So this is the site. This is where the roller shutter down. You can see there are other commercial properties along the parade. This is the side elevation. Has got a window there. Currently have no roller shutter on the side. So the proposal really is just to alteration of the shop front and erection of roller shutter to the side. So as I mentioned earlier, a permission was given to have a ice cream parlor shop really to the corner of this unit. So it's in here. So this is the front elevation. So the idea is to provide a service counter. So there will be little opening windows to the front instead of like a traditional shop front. So this will be the serving counter there. So it is very minor alteration to this shop front. And on the side, the window will not be changed, but there will be a roller shutter installed to enhance security for this part of the site. As you can see, that will be the shutter to be proposed. The shutter will be, in terms of color and design, to be the same as what is on site. We have not received any objections from any consultees or local residents. The scale of the alteration considered to be quite minor and will be acceptable in this instance. The design earlier I showed you, let's go back to that, is functional, but is considered to be in line in this case with the host building. So all in all, Chair, the recommendation is for approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. I understand that Councillor Birch has been shut out of the meeting again, Ed Maisie. Are you aware of that? Ed Maisie?
Chair, I put Councillor Birch into the waiting room, so no, she's not able to see or hear this item.
She's got no predetermination on this, so is she?
Councillor Birch announced at the start of the meeting that for item 9C, she did have a predetermination.
I thought she said that she was the ward councillor. No, not the ward councillor, but correct me if I'm wrong, Teresa. Did she say that?
Teresa, we can't hear you.
You've gone right, Teresa. Can you hear me? Can't hear you, Teresa.
Sorry, is that better?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
You hear me now? Sorry. Councillor Birch said that she had a predetermination in relation to item 9C.
Oh,
she
right.
said that she is the county councillor, a county council ward councillor, not the borough councillor for the item. Yeah. But she has predetermination, so she needs to be out for the consideration of it.
I thought she said she hadn't got one, but okay. All right, she's out. So, sorry, any questions to ask of Rita Committee? We've got no speakers on this.
I don't see any indications, Chair.
Right. Committee, I'm prepared to ask for comments then. Any comments, please? Councillor Markham, Brian?
Yes, Chair. I just like to propose that we accept the officer's recommendation. I might not have a need for the beauty parlour, but I'm all in favour of the ice cream counter.
Yeah.
So I propose we accept the officer's recommendation.
Fair point. Anybody second Councillor Markham's proposal?
Councillor Botwood?
Yeah. So there's a proposal by Councillor Markham, Brian Markham. There's a seconded by Councillor Botwood, Alan Botwood, that we accept the officer's recommendation for approval on this. A show of hands, please, that we're all those in favour.
I count 10 hands in the air, Chair.
10, and with Councillor Birch out of the room, that is unanimous. Okay, thank you. Right, we now come on to, so Councillor Birch can come back into the meeting. Right. Is she back in?
Councillor Birch has been readmitted, Chair.
Thank you. Right, we come on to item 9D, which is 22 Dallington Road, which is for a single-storey front and rear extension, including external alterations and relocation of air conditioning units to the rear.
Excuse me,
Rita, sorry?
Excuse me, Chair, a minute. Can I ask why I was closed out of that meeting, out of that item? I'm the county councillor, but I have no predetermination.
That's what I thought, but it appears that somebody said that you had, but
no, not at all.
No, well,
sorry, Councillor.
Can I ask?
Sorry,
Councillor Birch.
Yes.
Sorry, through you, Chair. Councillor Birch, I understood when I asked you at the beginning of the meeting if you were saying you had a predetermination in relation to the item, you said yes, you had.
No,
I noted that down. I believe also.
That was 9A.
No, you specifically said in relation to item 9C. That's what I wrote down.
I beg your pardon. That was a misunderstanding. It's only 9A.
Jane,
No predetermination.
Sorry about that, Jane. It was a misunderstanding. In retrospect, the vote for the committee that was in the room, it went through unanimously, but I do apologise for the misunderstanding on all parts.
Chair.
So please accept that. Peter,
Very
yeah.
good.
Yeah. Chair, if I can also clarify that I did observe this, and Councillor Birch took no part in the discussion or the vote on item 9A, where she had expressed an interest.
Yeah, I'm aware of that, Peter. I'm aware of that she didn't. Yeah, everything was above board there. But sorry about that, Jane. That misunderstanding. It's
right.
just one of. It's just one of them meetings.
We need to make these things clear.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think the way things are going tonight, we must be holding this meeting on Elm Street because it's getting a bit of a nightmare. But still, nevertheless, we have to soldier on. So then, anyway, Rita, 9D. 22 Dallington Road. This is your report. Would you like to present it, please?
Thank you, Chair. So this is page 45 of the agenda.
Yeah, thanks for that, Rita. Yeah,
Thank you. Right. This is the application site here. If I just show you the photograph. This is the Dallington stores in question. The report has made it quite clear that a previous planning application was submitted for a front and rear extension, but the application was refused by officers under delegated powers due to the impact to the neighbours to the right. The current scheme is a revision. I will show you in a minute. So in terms of the extension will be in this position. Just show you the adjoining semi is a takeaway on the other side. This is the rear view of the application site. So this is the back of the takeaway, and on the other side is a dwelling house. You can see, yeah, this is the house on the other side. Just the existing elevation, as you can see, front and back. So this is the proposal. As you can see, there will be a small extension to the front to be in line with the front elevation there. To the rear, there's a flat roof extension, as you can see. The previous scheme would have been much bigger, protruding much further, because at the time, officer was concerned about the impact on next door, but subsequently, this scheme now has been reduced in size, as you can see. And also, part of the proposal is to relocate the existing air conditioning units in this position. This is just the existing layout plan, as you can see there, the shop. So the extension will be going this position and at the back. This is the proposal. See the extension there and the extension. So the extension is to serve the existing shop unit to make it more viable, really. Just to say, paragraph 8.2 of the report has got an error. you should have said a proposal would not be contrary to the advice given. So that's just the amendment. So it is quite, it's a lot more acceptable now with this reduction in size for the extension, and we have not received any objection from neighbours. Although we have received comments from asset management, because this is council-owned land, but it's on a very long lease. Asset said the applicant have not contacted them, but obviously this is a private matter. The applicant's agent did confirm that following planning permissions given, if planning permission were to be given, they will, the solicitor will in turn contact asset to sort out any paperwork or process they need to go through. But that is not really a planning matter, but we just want to clarify that. So apart from that, Chair, the recommendation is for approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. Well, committee, there's no speakers on this application. So it's all, any questions to Rita directly, please? Are there any questions to Rita from the committee, please?
Nobody's indicating, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Ed. Right, committee, it's comments. Any comments on the application, committee, please?
Councillor Lane, Hack are indicating, Chair.
Councillor Lane, Jamie, yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy with the recommendation, and I propose we accept the offered recommendation.
Do I have a seconder? Would you be willing to second that, Councillor Hack?
Thank you, Chair. I have a question and a comment, Chair.
A question and a comment.
Yes. The comment. Yeah, to Rita. Hi, Rita. The neighbouring property, would they be affected by any view? Have we looked into that? And secondly, the lease. Though you said the Northampton Borough Council owned the land, they've got a long lease, but they've never been consulted. Do you know why is that?
Yeah. Through you, Chair. I'll answer the second question first. We did consult our asset management. It was just the applicant have not been in contact with assets, but the applicant did confirm that they will do so following, if we do decided to grant them planning permission. In terms of the neighbours' impact, we negotiated for the reduction of size of the extension to make sure that now the extension is acceptable, will not cause any overbearing impact on neighbours. So, so the answer is no, we're not concerned about that now. Thank you.
Well, we were on comments, and Councillor Lane's already put on record that he wishes to propose that we accept the officer's recommendation. Councillor Kilbride, Andy, did I see your hand go up as if you was wanting to second that? Yeah?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you. Right, so I have a proposer and a seconder that we accept the officer's recommendation. All those in favour, please, show of hands.
I count 11 hands raised, Chair.
Thank you, Ed. So that means the application has been approved unanimously. Thank you very much. Right, we now come on to item 9 here. I'll try to remember the page number here, which is page 51, committee. This is the location is at 108 Lower Thrift Street, which is change of use from dwelling house to house in multiple occupation for 4 occupants. Nikki, I believe this is your report. Would you like to present it, please?
Thank you, Chair. So this is the application site here. It's a mid-terrace property. And it's this property here with the grey features around the door arch. Just a street view. Unfortunately, I haven't got a view of the rear garden for this one. Apologies, Chair. So this is the existing layout. You've got a lounge diner to the front of the property, and then a kitchen, dining room, and utility to the rear, and 2 bedrooms and a bathroom on the first floor. So in terms of the alterations, the existing front room would be subdivided to create a bedroom and then retain a lounge with separate door into that. And then another bedroom be, the utility room be converted to a fourth bedroom, and a bathroom, new bathroom put in where the kitchen diner, so just taking up part of the existing kitchen diner floor space. The upstairs would remain as it is at the moment with a bathroom and 2 bedrooms. This just shows you the outside and provision within the rear yard for refuse and cycle storage. So unfortunately, we've not had any comments from private sector housing regarding sizes and facilities do comply with the council's guidance in terms of size of bedrooms and also provision of outlook and bathroom facilities. In respect to concentration, including this property, it would result in a 6.1% concentration within a 50-metre radius of the property. Parking in the area is on street, but the Highway Authority has raised no objection to the proposal. The site is within a sustainable location. There's bus stops just to the south of the site on Billing Road within about 150 metres of the application site, and regular bus services into town from there. There's sufficient room to the rear of the property for refuse and cycle storage, and conditions are proposed in that regard. Conditions are also proposed to restrict the number of occupants to 4 people. There is a basement for the property which isn't shown on these plans, but again, there's a condition to restrict that that's not used as a habitable room. So the property and the proposal complies with the council's policies and guidance, and therefore officer recommendation is for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Nicky. Just before I call the speakers in, you said that the highways have raised, I thought you said you raised an objection, but the report says they haven't raised an objection. Can you just clarify that?
No objection.
Yeah, thank you. Right, I now call upon Councillor Tony Ansell, please. Councillor Ansell, would you like to join us, please? Councillor Ansell, good evening. Are you with us, Tony?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me?
Yes, good evening. Councillor Ansell, if you just identify yourself and in what capacity you speak for the record, please.
Councillor Tony Ansell, representing the Abington Ward.
Thank you. You have 3 minutes, Tony. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, fellow councillors and officers of the council. I'm here to speak on behalf of the residents against planning application submitted for 108 Lower Thrift Street. I used to walk the street delivering papers. I remember fondly the close-knit community. This is in the days when the same families owned and lived in their houses. That was some 50 years ago. However, as I walk the same street now, I find that due to the numerous Hmos in the area, the things seem to have changed dramatically. My concerns are the increased traffic and evening parking, where spaces are at premium. If this application is approved tonight, it will only make matters worse. The parking situation is problematic, which is not helped by the number of people living in Hmos in this area, as well as the Northampton General Hospital and St Andrews Hospital, which are the largest psychiatric hospital in Europe, being on the doorstep, often means that Lower Thrift Street is often used as a Novasville car park for these hospitals. Recently, the council installed barriers on the Booby estate to alleviate parking. However, if the council keep giving the Hmos willy-nilly, we'll be back to square one. Numerous properties in the street have become Hmos in recent times, which has resulted in a difficult parking situation. There is also an issue with the rubbish, and I wonder where the designated refuse area would be within this house. I'm also concerned due to the lack of storage within the Hmos that rubbish is often placed out on different days of the week. And as I toured this area this afternoon, I couldn't help but notice the amount of fly tipping there was. This is often caused by here today, gone tomorrow tenants that often use Hmos. Many of these houses along the street are 3-storey. However, with 108 Lower Thrift Street being a 2-storey house, I feel the 6 occupants living there may be somewhat claustrophobic. I also have concerns that this will be the loss of another family home, along with the potential antisocial behaviour, noise and disturbance this will give the adjoining properties. I understand there's been 5 individual objections letters from residents expressing their concerns about this proposal. This is the most objections received against any application in the past 10 years. In view of both mine and my constituents' concerns, I would hope that common sense prevails and this planning application will be refused. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor. If you just remain with us in case there's any questions, but just one quick query I've got with it, Tony. You said for 6 occupants, the application is for 4. Are you aware of that?
It's been quite confusing because there was 3 applications, Upper Thrift, Lower Thrift. There was 104, 108, and then there was another one in the next street. So I must admit, I was going here, then everywhere. I did mean 4.
Okay, thank you very much. You just remain with us. Committee, any questions to ask of Councillor Ansell, please?
Nobody's indicating, Chair.
Thank you very much, Ed. Thank you for that, Tony. Thank you. And I'll call upon Mr. Mark Evans, please. Evans.
Hi, good evening, Chair. Yeah, this is Mark Evans, and I'm the applicant for the proposal.
Thank you. Thank you very much for identifying yourself and in what capacity you're speaking. You have 3 minutes, Mr. Evans, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Planning Committee. I hope you will agree with the Planning Officer's recommendation to approve this application for change of use to a HMO for 4 occupants. I just wanted to add the following points to the Planning Officer's detailed assessment. Firstly, a little bit about me. I'm a local resident with an experienced landlord with a reputation for providing high quality housing and maintaining good relations with local residents to ensure there are no issues. As an example of this, before submitting this application back in January, I contacted the neighbours close by to the property to talk through these plans and address any questions or concerns they had. This house has been rented out for many years, but there is a real need for quality shared housing of this type for key workers and other young individuals who can't afford to rent an entire house or flat by themselves. This property is located less than a 5-minute walk from Northampton General Hospital and St Andrews Hospital and is very close to the town centre. So this property would provide ideal housing for these individuals and would allow them to easily walk or cycle to and from work. There are no objections to this application from highways, and from experience, there is always on-street parking available in the area for residents. In addition to this street, there are parking bays close by on the Billing Road, which are not used as residents there have off-street parking to the rear. And South Street has very few houses on it, so parking again is usually available here. Notwithstanding all these points, as confirmed by the Planning Officer's comments, this property is in a sustainable location with a bus stop just 150 metres away on the Billing Road, and there is a vast array of shops and facilities close by on the Wellingborough Road and the town centre. As a result, this meets all the requirements of the HMO supplementary planning documents for highways and parking. In terms of HMO concentration, the number of HMOs in this area is well below the threshold. With this approved, there would be a 6% concentration versus the 10% maximum threshold. Finally, to address the typical neighbour concerns levelled at HMOs, for example, antisocial behaviour, noise and fly tipping, I take the following preventative actions as a landlord. Firstly, in finding suitable tenants, I use a local professional letting agent on Bridge Street, and they complete thorough referencing and background checks on all applicants to ensure only good quality tenants are accepted. The managing agent or myself visit the property every month to ensure everything is in order and the house and area is being kept in excellent condition. And as the property is professionally managed by the letting agent, neighbours can easily contact them at any time with any concerns they have, so these can be addressed straight away. From experience, these steps ensure I have good quality tenants who really look after the house and respect the neighbourhood. I hope this added information was helpful and trust you will now agree with the Planning Officer's recommendation to approve this application. Thank you, Planning Committee.
That's it. Just on the bell. Just on the bell. Mr. Evans, if you just remain with us in case the committee's got any questions to ask of you, please. Committee, do you have any questions to ask of Mr. Evans?
Councillors Birch and McCutcheon are indicating, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Birch. Jane, question please to Mr. Evans.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Evans, could you tell me, the plans weren't terribly clear that we looked at. It looked as if the person in the front bedroom would have to go through the lounge and the kitchen to reach a very small bathroom at the rear. I don't know if we can get the plans up again, but the flow through the house appeared to be slightly difficult. Thank you.
Sure. If we could bring the plans up, that'd be really helpful, but I can just talk you through ahead of that. So firstly, for the front room, there is a separate door from the hallway. So you can see there, and the house is actually a very large house with a very, very large ground floor in particular. So the front lounge dining room is being split into two, as mentioned before. Bedroom 3 has a door straight off the hallway, so you don't have to go through the lounge, obviously, to get into that room. Then what you tend to find in these kind of properties is obviously people congregate in the lounge or the kitchen dining room. So what I've provided is bedroom 4 is actually a very large double bedroom, which will have French doors out onto the rear garden. So it's actually a nice kind of aspect. And that will be a proper bathroom with a shower, toilet and wash and basin, which provides facilities there for 2 bathrooms for 4 people, which is actually pretty high end. Does that answer your question?
No.
Thank you. Jane, do you want to come back for the supplementary quickly?
How do you get from bedroom 3 to the toilet, please?
So bedroom 3 to the toilet. So you can either go straight up the stairs to the bathroom at the end of the stairs, or you can go then from bedroom 3 back through into the hallway, and then through the lounge and kitchen dining room. So the lounge and the kitchen dining room are the thoroughfare. So you've actually got 2 bathrooms available.
So, okay, thank you for that. You said Councillor McCutcheon was one speaker, Ed. Another, sorry, wanted to ask questions.
Correct, Chair. Councillor Kilbride is indicating as well.
Okay, Councillor McCutcheon. Arthur, are you with us? Thank you. Would you like to ask the question?
Done it. There we go.
Yeah, I can hear you, Arthur. Yes, go on.
Thank you. My question was also related to the location of the bedroom 4 to the bathroom and bedroom 3 to it, because it looks as though on the plans that we've got there, that in order to get to the lavatory bathroom from the bedroom at the front ground floor, you've got to go through the lounge and diner to get there. Confirm to me, would you please, that that's the case? Bedroom 4 is only accessible through the kitchen diner, and that would be for the bedroom 3, unless you were to go up the stairs.
Mr. Evans, would you like to come back on that?
Absolutely. Yes, so bedroom 3 have a choice of 2 bathrooms to use. They can come out of their bedroom into the hallway and go straight up the stairs to the bathroom at the top of the stairs. So that's probably going to be the quickest way to get to the bathroom. Or if that bathroom is occupied, they can then go through the lounge and kitchen dining room to get to the bathroom at the rear. So that's the person's choice in bedroom 3.
Thank you, Chairman. Related to that.
Thank you, Arthur.
Related to that.
Thank you, Councillor.
Related to that.
Thank you.
Is the question.
Sorry.
What's happened to the utility room and to the uses to which a utility room's put?
Absolutely. So the utility room itself actually is just a storage room at the moment. It's a very large kitchen diner with a big table and everything you would need in terms of appliances. Literally, that room at the back is purely a storage room, not used for anything at all at the moment. So it's just that on the floor plan it says utility, but it's more of a storage room today. So there's no need for that going forward.
Thank you, Chairman.
Right, thank you.
If I could just get that clear. So whether it's been historically a utility room or not, there will be no utility room in the future.
Correct. Absolutely, Councillor.
Okay, thank you, Arthur. Councillor Kilbride, Andy, did you was
Yeah, for you, Chair. Mr. Evans, can you just confirm that bedroom 4, which is the double, will be just for one person, or will it be for two?
It will be for one person. Every bedroom is for one person. The double rooms, they're for one person, effectively. That's all I'm looking for approval to.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else got any questions to ask of Mr. Evans, please?
Is Councillor McCutcheon indicating again?
Yes, I am. Sorry.
You want to come back?
Sorry it's taking so long, Chairman. Could I just confirm that the only entrance to the garden is through bedroom 4?
No, the entrance to the garden will be from the kitchen dining room. So there is a side back door, effectively, from the kitchen diner, which will go straight out into the back garden.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Evans. Thank you, Arthur. There's no more questions to ask of Mr. Evans.
Councillor Hack's indicating, Chair.
Councillor Hack, Enham, yeah.
Yeah, through you, Chair. Thank you once again. Hi, Mr. Evans. You said you're a local landlord. My question to you is that do you manage your own properties or do you use a estate agent? And secondly, you said that this would be used, possibly used for key workers. Do you intend to use it for students or just key workers only? Thank you.
So yeah, certainly, Councillor. So firstly, I always use a professional letting agent. So I do not manage the properties myself. I do it through a professional letting agent, but I do get involved to make sure things are run absolutely perfectly. So happy tenants, happy neighbours, then it makes my life much happier as well. The second point is I'm looking, given the locality of it, I think it will probably appeal most to people who work in the hospital. But obviously when the property is rented, and put up for let, we'll see what who looks to apply for it. But generally there's a lot of demand from nurses, people working in the hospitals, and I say that location would really appeal to them at the moment.
Well, thank you. Right, there's no more questions to ask of Mr. Evans. Thank you, Mr. Evans, for that detailed answer to the questions. Thank you. Right, anything you want to come back on, Nikki, please, that you've heard?
No, thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Right, so it's questions directly to Nikki now, committee. Questions? Any questions to Nikki, committee, please?
Nobody's indicating, Chair.
Thank you, Ed. So now we go on to comments. Any comments, committee, please? Councillor Kilbride. Andy, I can see your hand. Yeah.
Through you, Chair. I have a concern for this property in the future. I think the double bedroom could be moved for 2 people, and the lounge, which isn't used at the moment, could also be converted into another room to be let out in the future. So you'd end up with a Hmo with 6 people as opposed to 4 people at present. If this went forward for a 6-bed Hmo as it is, it wouldn't get through. And I'm just worried that this is one of those cases where it will be coming down the line in 12 to 18 months' time, and this will be a 6-bed Hmo. And that'll be 50% more people in there and big pressures on the local community.
I'll share your views in it to some extent, Andy, on that. But at the minute, it's we have to judge it on what it is. It's a 4-bedroom one. What you're mentioning is an assumption, whereas the fact is that it's for no more than 4 people, and it is conditioned to that extent on condition 3. So I take your point, what you're saying, but we have got what we've got in front of us. Anyone else got any comments, please?
Councillor Birch is indicating.
Councillor Birch, Jane, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. My concern is the flow through the house. The fact that if if somebody in bedroom 3 wants to use the downstairs bathroom, because that is where they keep their shower gel, their hair shampoo, they've got to walk through the lounge and the kitchen that could have, people they don't know sitting there. And anybody going to bedroom 4 also has to walk through the lounge and the kitchen to get to their bedroom. I just think the flow through the house isn't satisfactory. And I certainly, would not want to walk with a towel around me through the lounge, through the kitchen, if there are people that, were cooking and sitting and watching TV. So it's a little bit not a good layout for me, I'm afraid.
Thank you. Anyone else got any comments, please?
No one indicating, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Ed. Right, well, as I say, we've seen 1 or 2 of these problems before, particularly where the bathrooms and the toilets are in vast conflict with how people are using them. But the fact is it satisfactory grounds, planning grounds that is, to really say that this is not suitable? But then again, it's your decision, time committee, along with mine. It's now the fact of the recommendation is for approval. Do I have anyone who wants to propose this, please, Paul?
Councillor Lane's proposing, Chair.
Thank you, Jamie. Councillor Lane, anybody seconding that, please? Councillor Botwood, Alan, yeah. So could I have a show of hands, committee, that we accept the officer's recommendation for approval, please?
Seven hands raised, Chair.
Right. Those against?
Nobody's indicating, Chair.
Abstentions, please.
Three hands raised, Chair.
Okay, so that is approved on a majority decision. Thank you very much, committee. Thanks for that. So we now come on to item 9F, which is on page 59. Okay. Right, page 59, which is, Adam, your report, which is at 51 St Matthew's Parade, change of use of dwelling from dwelling house to house in multiple occupation for 10 occupants. Andy, Adam, sorry, would you like to present the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. The application site is located to the southeast of the Kingsley Local Centre, which runs along here and has rear access onto Oakwood Rise via a shared access drive. The proposal seeks a change of use of the property from a 5-bed house to a 10-occupant Hmo. The Hmo concentration within the 50-metre radius is 2%, so well within the 10% threshold. In addition, private sector housing have assessed the proposals and advised that the room sizes and facilities are acceptable for a 10-person Hmo. 3 of the Hmo bedrooms would be double occupancy, and I will take this opportunity to clarify an error in paragraph 7.18 on paragraph 64 of the committee report. The report refers to a requirement for 10 parking spaces for the proposed use under the standards. However, the standards refer Apologies, Chair. However, the standards refer to bedrooms and not occupancy. Therefore, as the proposed Hmo would have 7 bedrooms, the guidance in the standards seeks 7 spaces. In contrast, while the existing property has 5 bedrooms, comprising 3 double bedrooms and 2 single bedrooms, the parking standards for a house of this size is capped at 3 spaces under the standards. Although in any event, the Hmo SPD allows for Hmos with 0 parking in highly sustainable locations close to local centres and on bus routes, such as the case for the application proposals. Moving on to photographs of the site, the first image is taken from Google Earth, and you can see that the site here forms part of a run of terrace properties that are diagonally opposite the Tesco Metro on the Kingsley Parade. You can also see the shared access drive to the rear that I referred to, and the commercial parking to the rear of one of the neighbouring properties. This is the front elevation of the application property, which is the property here within the terrace. And prior to converting to a house 10 years ago, it formed part of the Parkside nursing home with the adjacent two properties. There are presently dwellings to either side of the application site, with a ball gown shop and hairdressers and salon to the left. We have a couple of pictures inside the existing property. This is the open living space that would be subdivided into 2 bedrooms. This is would remain as the communal kitchen and living area. Here we have one of the upper floor bedrooms, and this is the rear amenity space. This is the location plan that accompanies the application. And then we have the existing floor plan. So to recap on the photos, the one showing the living space was looking this way through here. This is the existing kitchen dining area, and then it was a bedroom at the rear that the photograph shows. So the property has 3 bedrooms. It's got one here, there on this floor with bathrooms in between, and then another 2 bedrooms in the upper floor with another bathroom between. The proposal, as I said, you'd have the ground floor subdivided into 2 bedrooms. There's a toilet on the downstairs with the open plan living dining to the rear. Then we have bedroom, bathroom, bedroom, an ensuite to the front bedroom, and then the upper floors, they have a shower room between the 2 of them. To conclude, the officer recommendation is to approve, subject to conditions as detailed in the committee report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Adam. Right, we have 3 speakers on this application, so I'll call them in the order that I've got. Councillor Anna King, please. Councillor King. Good evening to you, Councillor. And if you just identify yourself, please, Councillor, and in what capacity you speak, please.
I'm Anna King, and I'm the ward councillor for Fitchville area where this application falls.
Thank you. You have 3 minutes, Anna. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. So, been contacted by a number of residents on this application, and I do know that the next application is separate, but they are next to each other, and I think it has an impact on your decision that you make on this one as well. So already the area is oversubscribed for parking. It's extremely hard to get anywhere to park near your property there, and businesses across the road highly suffer. Anyone that lives in that area is sometimes walking 5-10 minutes to get to their vehicles. Late at night, this causes problems and can have an increase in antisocial behaviour. The rear alleyways to these properties also are high for antisocial behaviour and crime. I don't think that's been properly taken into consideration. The other item on here was the beat survey that was requested with the parking. The applicant hasn't even bothered to provide one, which they probably don't want to do it because the outcome would be that they will know there is a high impact of traffic in that area. They do rightly state that there is a bus route there, and it is a good bus route, but will all these people be using the bus? I simply think that this is just going to add more pressure to the businesses around this area and the people that live in private family homes, and I think it will really make a detrimental impact to the way that people live within that area.
Is that it, Anna?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. You just remain with us in case the committee's got any questions to ask of you, Anna. Anna, I just would say before we go on to that, do you intend to say the same thing about the next application?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Right, any questions to Councillor King, please, committee?
Nobody's indicating, Chair.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Anna. Thank you very much. And I call upon Caroline Mays, please.
Hello there. I'm afraid my video is a little bit poor. I might fade to white at any minute, but so I apologise in advance if that happens, but I hope you can hear me okay.
I can hear you fine. If you'd like to identify yourself, Caroline, and in what capacity you speak, please.
Thank you. Yes, I'm Caroline Mays. I'm a local resident. I live a few doors away from the proposed property, and I'm speaking on behalf of my own family and also my elderly next door neighbour and her family who share the same concerns. So we're speaking against the development.
Thank you. You have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. We understand the need for more affordable housing, but a Hmo of 10 people is an overdevelopment of this property, which is not in keeping with the surrounding properties and area. It'll have a detrimental effect for the following reasons. There's huge pressure in parking in the local area, as Councillor King's already mentioned, but we also have a concern about road safety. We're seriously concerned about the adverse effect of potentially 20 additional cars. And I know that double rooms might only have, say, 1 car, but we are accepting this as 10 people. So it could be 10 cars plus 10 people in the property next door. So we're looking at 20 additional cars in the area. This is one of the main arterial roads to the town centre, with buses and lorries passing every few minutes, 24 hours a day. Kingsley Park Terrace is a busy shopping area with service vehicles unloading regularly. I sent a photo in my initial objection letter, which showed the Tesco lorry unloading in the middle of the road, so cars had to overtake into oncoming traffic. That happens about twice a week at about 7 a.m. And 7 a.m. is a time when obviously a lot of people haven't left for work. So this is a serious risk. The numbers of people who live, work, visit and travel through this area are far higher than the average residential street that you might consider these change of uses for. Therefore, a large number of people and business users and business owners will be adversely affected by this development, and the road will become more dangerous, which is not only an issue for residents, but also a huge number of school children who are travelling through the area regularly, shoppers and the business owners. Trade for businesses will also be affected. And Councillor King's also right to point out the problems we have with the alleyways behind the residencies, that they are hotspots for antisocial behaviour and fly tipping, which we know is a side effect of Hmos as well. So this development needs further exploration before it can be approved. Lack of space within the property is also a concern. We're aware that the room sizes meet the regulations, but the kitchen space is of great concern to me. The shared kitchen is no bigger than the 5-bedroom house at the moment, and HMOs of 10 plus occupants need 2 ovens, 2 fridges, 2 of everything, and also worktop space. I can't see that in the existing photograph or floor plan that it will fit. The bins provided are currently for a family home. If we do have additional bins and bicycle parking on these 2 properties, it will detract from the character of the area and it will make the area look ugly. And as Councillor King's already pointed out, the additional submission of an application for another 10-person HMO next to this property is a separate development, but the 2 have to be placed into consideration together, because the 2 together are unacceptable overdevelopment of the area. And that's it.
Thank you, Caroline. If you just remain with us in case the committee's got any questions to ask of you, please.
Thank
Committee,
you.
Do you have any questions to ask of Caroline, please?
Nobody's indicating, Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Caroline.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I call upon Indy Shokar, please.
Hello, Chair, can you hear me?
Very faintly.
I'll do my best to speak up. Is that better?
I can hear you, yes, thank you. If you just identify yourself, please, and in what capacity you speak. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm a planning consultant and I've been appointed to put it simply, to deliver this statement today. So I've not had any involvement in this application, so I don't know how much help I'm going to be if there are any questions, but obviously between myself and the planning officers, we'll do our best to reply.
Okay, you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. So good evening, everybody. I'm here to speak on behalf of the applicant in respect of the proposals at 51 and 53 St. Matt's Parade. So this item, as as people have already recognised, will be followed by an almost identical proposal for the neighbouring property and by the same applicants. So this statement essentially applies to both items, so it will save you having to hear it twice, Chair.
Thank you.
The officer looking after this application has obviously thoroughly assessed the proposals, is fully supportive of the neighbouring schemes. The schemes have been analysed against national and local planning policy, and they are deemed to have satisfied all of the relevant tests. In particular, the borough only recently adopted its SPD on houses in multiple occupation. That policy talks about area concentration, and we must remember that this is a relatively new document. It captures the council's latest position on such schemes. So it'd be very difficult to challenge it based on it being outdated. That policy document says these schemes should not result in any more than 10% of the total number of HMO dwellings, regardless of whether licensed or not, within a 50-metre radius of the application site, in order to prevent concentration of similar uses. At paragraph 7.4 of the committee report, the planning officer has rightly confirmed that both this application and 53 St Matt's Parade, if they were to be approved, the combined concentration within a 50-metre radius of the site would only be 4%. That's substantially below the 10%. At paragraph 7.4, I apologise, I've repeated myself there, the amenity space measurements afforded by the schemes are supported by planning officers and they are in line with policy. At paragraph 7.18, it is made clear that the site occupies a highly sustainable location and therefore the proposal would satisfy the council's parking standards based on it being in that kind of sustainable location. We thank planning officers for their work and consideration of this proposal. We obviously welcome the officer's recommendation and equally, we see no reason why, based on planning policy, the proposal cannot be supported. And we hope the committee support the proposal this evening. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Andy. If you just remain with us in case the committee's got any questions to ask of you, please. Committee, do you have any questions to ask of Indy, please?
Councillor Birch is indicating, Chair.
Councillor Birch, Jane, yes.
Thank you, Chair. Indy, this is going to be a huge development in this area. Who is going to manage these two large houses that are going to need a lot of upkeep? You know, these houses are 3 stories high. You know, windows need painting, gutters need clearing. Euro bins out the back, hopefully. Who is going to manage 20 people in this area, all their rubbish, all their comings and goings, maintain the houses to a proper standard and the gardens?
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I know that the applicant has other similar developments within Northampton, and they're all managed via professional companies. Very similar to what Mark had mentioned on a previous item, who was the applicant for that scheme. So I understand that the applicant would use, I think it might be Underwoods in the town centre to manage the scheme. So again, they would take on board any concerns that may emanate from the local community, from neighbours. That would be fed back to the applicant, and the applicant would work closely with any workers that are required to overcome any issues. I know for a fact the quality of the work that the applicant can deliver is of very high standards. So they've done flatted schemes before in the town centre. They're working on one right now at number 2, the Drapery. Completely regenerated the building, you know, brought it up from something that was in disrepair to something that's very high quality and deserving of that kind of location. It's the All Saints Conservation Area. And I'm pretty sure the same standards would apply here. I see no need for the standards to drop. So, I mean, that's the best I can do to try to answer that question. It may not have resolved all of your queries, but that's the best I can do.
Anyone else got any questions to ask of Indy? Councillor Kilbride, Andy, yeah. You've gone on mute. That's it, Andy. Yeah.
Hi, Indy. You placed a lot of emphasis on concentration there and the high moles and 10%. These are 2 5-bedroom houses, which in the day would have been mum, dad, 4 children, which would have been across the 2 properties, 12 people. What you're proposing is 20 adults. So, you know, over the big scheme of things, you're probably like 35% more people living in these 2 houses. So do you not think there might be a little bit of overdevelopment here?
I have to, admittedly, I agree that, you know, you've got 2 HMOs next to each other being proposed at the same time under 2 different schemes, albeit by the same applicant. That in itself, I think, is unique. However, planning policy is planning policy. There is nothing in planning policy that says that you cannot do that next to each other. If there was, then obviously we'd be in breach of the planning policy, but there isn't. So in planning terms, and sorry to labour the point, in planning policy terms, it's not overdevelopment.
Sorry, you went a bit faint there, Indy. What was that?
So my conclusion is, you know, based on planning policy, which I think is what the proposal needs to be considered against, you know, adopted policy, I cannot see how this can be looked at as overdevelopment.
Well, thank you.
That's
Thank
your
you.
position. That's for us to evaluate.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
Indy, what sort of, shall we say, consolation would the immediate neighbours have in contacting the managers of these schemes? I mean, obviously, if neighbours have got a problem, they'd want to be sure they could get to access to somebody pretty quickly and not go through a long line of numbers or so forth. Would this be managed daily, weekly, very, very accurately?
Well, I mean, I don't want to speak. I don't think the applicant is on this call, and you know, I don't want to overcommit to anything or step on any toes. But I don't see any harm in perhaps, you know, setting up some kind of group, if you like, so that we can talk to local community or representatives from the local community, take on board what kind of concerns they have, and when the scheme is being developed, you know, we can, if you like, share what's going on site while we're moving forward. And if any concerns are expressed at that point in time, then we would happily take them on and take them away and make sure that we do our best to get them resolved. We would obviously, at that point, identify who the management company is. We would happily share contact details for the right person in that management company so that they can phone them direct. And obviously have that concern documented. And we would be, you know, we would make best endeavours to make sure that any concerns can be resolved as swiftly as possible.
Thank you.
Working partnership arrangement, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Right. Thank you. Anyone else, committee, got any questions to ask of Indy, please?
So, sorry, Chair.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, may I just ask you whether you can see Councillor McCutcheon on your screen?
Councillor McCutcheon's in the waiting room at the present.
With
and can I ask Maisie, could you confirm whether Councillor McCutcheon left the meeting before the vote took place on the item 10E? That's 108 Lower Thrift Street, the prior item to this one.
You mean 9E, Teresa?
9E, sorry, yes.
Yeah, because I've got 10 people voted on that.
Yes, so...
He was there for that item, but he left at the start of this one.
Has he left the meeting?
He's in the waiting room at present, Chair, but he did leave at the start of the item.
Well, okay. If he's left at the start of the item and he's not heard it, he can't vote on this. That's my understanding. Okay.
That's correct.
So we've only got 10 councillors actually voting on this. Teresa, yeah?
Correct, Chair.
Okay, thank
Yes.
you. Thank you for that. Anyway, where did we get to? No more questions to ask of Indy. Anybody? No?
No indications,
Right.
Chair.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Indy. Adam, would you like to come back on anything that you've heard, please?
Just to clarify, Chair, there was a question about the sort of standard of the facilities in the property. As set out in paragraph 7.7 of the report, the communal living and dining area would meet the 24 square metre requirements set out in our new guidance, and would meet the HMO licensing requirements. This property would be a licence requirement, and there's an informative on page 65 at the end to draw to the applicant's attention that it will require formal licensing. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you, Adam. Right, it's now committee. It's questions to Adam. Has anybody got any questions of Adam, please?
Councillor Birch indicating, Chair.
Councillor Birch, Jane, yeah, please.
Thank you, Chair. Adam, can you just confirm toilets? I'm afraid I'm on my hobby horse again. How many toilets, how many bathrooms for 10 people?
I'll just bring up the floor plans to show you, Councillor. Apologies, it's crashed on. I'll have to share a different screen to my normal screen to show you. So this is the layout of the property. A ground floor, you've got 2 bedrooms, one on the front and one here, which was the existing open plan subdivided. Then there's a WC at ground floor, which is off the communal area, off the hallway, and then a separate communal living, kitchen, dining at the back. Then as you go up to the next floor, the double bedroom on the front would have its own ensuite. Then there would be a bedroom here and a bedroom here. There would be a bathroom in between. And then up to the top floor, there would be 2 bedrooms with a shower room in the middle. So you've got a bathroom, shower room ensuite, shower room, and a downstairs toilet. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else got any questions to Adam?
Councillors Golby, Russell and Kilbride indicating.
Okay. Councillor Golby, Matt, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Just a technical question, I guess. What's the upper limit in terms of number of occupants in the HMO classification?
Adam?
In terms of HMO classifications, they go from 6 or less is at the C4. When they get bigger than that, they then become a sui generis HMO. So in terms of planning, there's no sort of set rule, but there are different facilities as you go up in terms of facilities that you would require. Thank you.
All right. Sorry, who was after? I know I saw Andy. I can see you, Brian. Who was the next one, Ed, after Councillor?
Councillor Russell, Chair.
Councillor Russell, Catherine, yeah, please.
Thank you. Adam, I'm still unclear about the amenities in this property. You say there's a ground floor toilet, and then the first floor there's a bathroom, and the second floor there's an ensuite shower. Sorry, a shared shower. So exactly how many loos are there in this house?
There's one toilet per floor, but in terms of the acceptability of the facilities, they're set out in the Hmo SPD and in Hmo licensing guidance, and private sector housing have confirmed that the facilities would be acceptable.
Through you, Chair, can I have a supplementary, please?
Yes, please.
I quite agree with one of the external speakers who said that the kitchen didn't seem to have the appropriate amount of cupboard space, fridges, ovens, and other facilities that you would hope would make 10 people feel comfortable in a home. So together with 3 loos, well, I'll wait for comments before I say anything else. Thank you.
Right,
Councillor Russell, if I could come back on that. Just the existing kitchen is the existing situation, but it's not what's proposed as part of the application. I'll show you the plans again. The plans don't have the detailed layout of the facilities within the kitchen. That would be approved as part of the licensing process. So I'll share the screens again. Now it's working. They've just shown the layout as empty. They haven't shown the facilities in that area, but they have shown the floor area is 24 square meters, which is what licensing and RSPD require for communal kitchen living areas for a 10 occupant HMO with the bedroom sizes that this property has. Thank you.
Right. Sorry, who was after Councillor? I saw Councillor Markham, Brian Markham. Brian, you've got your hand up, I believe.
Can you hear me, Chair?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can't now. He's gone off.
I'm back again.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Previous question. One of the previous questions to Adam was upper limits, if you like, and the HMOs. I'll just be clear. Am I right in thinking that because this is over 6 people in this, or maybe so that's the reason, because it's 10, that it has to be licensed as opposed to just a planning application? Thank you.
Adam, can you come in?
In terms of the planning application, this is in an Article 4 area, so planning would be required irrespective of the number in the HMO. In terms of licensing, the licensing, they recently changed the requirements on licensing, but I think any property, here we go. If it's occupied by 5 or more people living in, then it falls under licensing. So this property, previously it related to stories, but it's been changed and it's 5 people or more. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Andy, Councillor Kilbride, did you have your hand up for a question to Adam?
I did, Chair, but Catherine mentioned about the kitchen, and Adam has answered the question, so I'm okay now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Did anyone else got any questions to Adam? Did I miss anybody? Ed, anybody else?
Sorry, Chair, Councillor Birch is indicating.
Councillor Birch. Questions to Adam? You're coming back, Jane.
I don't know if this is a question to Adam or for Peter. The planning consultant, I have forgotten his name, I do beg his pardon, did mention, Indy, right, did mention that a way to perhaps allay some of the fears of the local community would be to have meetings to set up a sort of group that could could feed back problems to an agent. Is there any way of making that a condition of this application?
That was in answer to my question, actually, of him, Jane, but I'll allow the question to be asked now.
Yeah, Chair, I can cover that.
Yeah.
No, we can't condition the operation of that. However, we know this is an extremely competitive market and there are good landlords who are setting extremely high standards. The agent is listening to the conversation now, so I can ask him to go back to the applicant and say that if permission is granted, we would strongly encourage him to engage with the neighbours in terms of the good practice that other landlords are doing, to share contact numbers, and again, through the use of an agent, to have a 24-hour number that they can contact in case of any particular problems.
That would be helpful, Peter, would be helpful. Yeah. Jane? Jane, did you?
I heard that. I think, it is the management of these properties with 20 people coming into an area like this, where there's a lot of families still, where it's used as a local shopping centre, where there are huge parking problems. The management of this is going to be absolutely crucial. Otherwise, this is going to end up as, you know, all the things that we absolutely dread happening around HMOs, transient.
That's sorry, Jane. That's the reason I asked the question in the first place. But I'm comforted and encouraged by Peter's response on that. Right, there's no more questions of Adam. We're now on to comments, please. Councillor Botwood, Alan, I can see you. Yeah. You're still muted, Alan. You're in.
Hopefully
you
can hear me now.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, on the comments, Chair, it's really that I appreciate that these type of houses are more and more difficult to sell as family homes. People don't want to pay the price that they've got in the areas that they are when they can buy alternative large properties outside of the main town. However, I'm a little bit disappointed, if I'm honest, in the sense that with both of these, and I'll mention that now, saves me mentioning it again, that given the size of the properties, we have seen as a committee over the last few years, better quality, smaller properties coming forward, whereby when you've got the occupants in numbers, they've all got their own ensuite. And I think, you know, I know this is not a planning, it's a comment, it's not a planning issue, but I do think that as a council, as a committee, we might need to look at that if we can moving forward. And that's thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Bowen. Thank you, Alan. Anyone else got any comments, please?
Councillor Russell indicating, also Councillor Golby, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Russell. Catherine?
Thank you. My comment is that I totally agree with what Councillor Botwood said about the provision of ensuite facilities for each of the rooms. Personally, I am not prepared to support this application. I'm going to abstain, and I would certainly support it if it came back with 8 people on the in each of the properties.
Well, thank you, Councillor Russell. Thank you, Councillor Golby. Matt?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I find it difficult to support this application. Basically, I think it's very difficult to consider them on their own because there's two, you know, literally we've got 2 together, and that, you know, that's putting a lot of people in a not a small area. I accept they're large properties, but I think that's a real departure from the youth and the whole ethos of what those homes and what that, you know, the whole operation of that area. And I find it quite difficult to get my head around that in a way that we could anyway near support it. And I agree with the comments previously made by Councillor Botwood and Councillor Russell as well. We've seen some good quality applications over the last couple of years or so that are a lot smaller than this, that provide a greater element of amenities and facilities. So I really can't support this. Thank you.
Anyone else got any comments?
Councillor Hack and Councillor Kilbride, Chair.
Yeah, okay, Andy, Councillor Kilbride, yeah.
Through you, Chair. I find I can't support this. I think it's over. It's too many people in a space. They should have en suites for the size of these properties, and I think it's just a little bit too much overdevelopment. I agree with my fellow councillors. 8 people would be better for this type of property with en suite. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hack. Enham.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I want to echo what my fellow councillor colleague has already mentioned. We have seen better proposed on a smaller development, you know, with ensuite facilities provisions. On this one, you know, we bring so many, we bring 20 people, you know, into properties on large scale, and I don't think I could support this wholeheartedly. So therefore, I would be abstaining or either against.
Thank you. Councillor Markham. Brian?
I tend to agree with colleagues entirely on that. We've certainly seen much better applications in big properties. And generally, I've supported applications. You know, 5-bedroom house in this location, probably not desire people want them today when there is a need for the other. I really would like advice from officers as to possible ways forward. Now, yes, we say we would like. First of all, we have to consider 2 separate applications, my understanding. But you know, they run together. How could we possibly move forward and put in this view that we might support applications for two applications for 8 residents in each of them? I'd just like officers' advice on that.
Well, the point is, has anybody else got any comments, by the way? Before
Councillor Mary Markham's got a comment to make as well, Chair.
Councillor Markham, Mary, yeah, good evening. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I share the sentiments of Councillor Buckwood, Golby, Kilbride. I think everyone here. I know that we have to consider them as 2 separate applications. I think 10 and 1 population, whether they meet the requirements or not, it's not a demonstration of quality Hmo, and to have 2 together, the impact on the area of 20 applicants between those 2 properties, never mind the size. They may well in size wise meet the bathroom or whatever sizes and the kitchen. However, for 10 people and the practicality of it, you know, I think that we need to look at ourselves and say, do we really think that that's fit for purpose? And I have to say that I don't, and I couldn't support
it. Peter, there's been some comments. Did you want to come in before I call for the vote?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Remind members of the role of Planning Committee, which is to determine planning applications that are placed in front of them. It's not the role of committee to redesign the schemes, and it's not the role of committee to barter, in effect, saying, well, if you come back with a certain number, then we'll approve it. So I think if permission was to be refused here and revised applications would be submitted, members would have to be very clear that they were looking at those revised applications with an open mind again. I hear the concerns about the concentration of occupiers. These are large houses. These are effectively 5 double-bedroomed houses, and so could accommodate 10 residents in a family without needing planning permission. And I would urge you to consider that carefully when you are reaching your consideration, particularly in light of the adopted policies that we have.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. It is within the supporting planning document that it concerns me a bit. The fact is that it covers this. It's the age-old thing. We have what we have in front of us. I heard what my fellow colleagues, committee members say, but I do go through, we can't make a decision on saying, well, we want this and we want that, and if we've got that, we could perhaps approve it. We have got what we've got in front of us, and planning is pretty, this is where planning flies in the face sometimes of the principle and the moral of things. But with me planning hat on, I would find it difficult for us to sustain this on appeal on planning grounds. I understand what everybody said and I sympathise with it. But there's 2 hats in this and I can't wear them both at the same time. So from a planning perspective, I can't see any reasons to refuse it, whereas I can see the moral and principle reasons that's been echoed. So I might be the Lone Ranger here, but I'd have to go forward with the officer's recommendation on planning grounds. But Councillor Lane, you got your hand up for a comment? I'm sorry.
No, I was going to second your proposal, Chair, to move things forward.
Okay, well, if he wants me, thank you very much. I'm going to propose that we accept the officer's recommendation, that we accept this grudgingly and reluctantly in some respects, but we accept the officer's recommendation. I'm proposing it. Councillor Lane is seconding it. Those in favour of that proposal, please.
Three hands raised, Chair.
Okay, that's 3-4. Thank you. Those against, please.
Five hands raised, Chair.
Okay, and abstentions, please.
Two hands raised.
I was going to say there should be two early. Right. So on the basis of that, this application is refused. Now, Teresa, you'll have to come in here to correct me where we go from here. I think we have to now. That has been refused on this basis.
No, Chair. You need to now ask whether there's an alternative recommendation, a proposal for refusal, and also reasons.
Chair, another alternative would be to seek a deferral and then empower the officers to go back and negotiate on the details of the scheme.
I wouldn't object to that one. I think that's what the majority of the committee was saying. Councillor, well, hang on, Councillor Mark and Brian, I saw your hand go up first, and then I saw yours, Councillor Botwood.
I'd like to propose, Chair, that the application be deferred, because we ask them to consider the number of occupants, the facilities, such as bathroom facilities and so on, and all those problems, and negotiate on both this application and the other application.
I'm coming to the next one in a minute, Brian.
Okay, that's all I like to propose.
To move things forward. Councillor Botwood, Alan, did you want to come in on that?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just to say that, you know, if we're able to go for a deferral, I'd be happy to second that motion.
Right, back to you, Peter, and Teresa as well. So you would want a proposal that we defer the application, but based on what grounds? Peter?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, we would need a proposal to defer consider the application and to ask the officers to go back and renegotiate the scheme in relation to occupation and facilities.
Right, based on what Peter's just said, can I have a proposal that that is what happens, to go back on the basis of what Peter just said? Councillor Mark and Brian, are you putting your hand up for that? You're proposing that?
Yes, I'll propose that, yes.
So, and a seconder?
Councillor Russell, Chair.
Right. All those in favour that we defer it for the reasons that Peter's mentioned, please.
Ten hands raised, Chair.
Pardon?
That's 10 hands raised.
Which would be right for the deferral on the basis of what Peter's said. Okay, so that item is deferred. Thank you. Right, now then, Teresa, you'll have to play a part in this. We're coming now to 9G on page 69, and we've heard that these are virtually identical, because the speaker that was for Indy Showcar says he's got nothing to add any different. I would surmise, and I would say surmise, that Councillor King and Caroline Mays have got nothing different to add. Now, I don't wish to shortcut this, but I think if we're not careful, we'll be going down a long and winding road, coming to the same conclusion. We've got to judge each application on its merit. Can we come to the conclusion that we've come to the same conclusion legally and in a proper democratic way? Peter, Teresa, I'll take your advice on this before I move it forward.
Chair, I think. Can you hear me? Yes.
Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Yes.
You can move that we defer from the chair that we defer consideration of the next item on that basis and go forward accordingly.
Thank you, Teresa. Are you happy with that, Peter?
Yes, I am, Chair. I've just noticed Councillor McCutcheon has returned to the room. As he missed the substantive discussion on the previous item, may I suggest that he doesn't take part in this vote?
Yeah, sorry about that, Arthur. It's a bit detailed. If you just excuse us for a moment while we just conclude on item 9G. It is a bit of a complex issue. Quite prepared to explain it to you later. But committee, what I'm suggesting now is that we take the deferral route like we did on 9F to defer the application like we did in 9F. And I'm sure the speakers wouldn't mind, Councillor King and Caroline Mays, if we did the same. So could I have a proposal that we do that, please? Councillor Hack, seconding, Councillor Botwood, thank you. All those in favour that we defer it under the guidelines that Peter laid out?
A 10 hands raised, Chair.
That's unanimous. So both of them are deferred unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks for the lengthy debate and thanks for the outcome. I think in all probability it was the best thing. Now, I realise we've been going on for some while, but we've only got 2 applications left, and I'd like to finish if the committee, unless the committee, any of them, are in dire straits. I'd like to finish if we can without rushing it, giving it the due minutes that they deserve. So I'd like to go on to 9H if committee's happy. Yeah? Yeah? Okay, right, thank you. So 9H. This is a location at the former, and this is on page 79, committee. This is for the former Pierce Leather Works at Wellingborough Road, of variations of conditions 2 and 24 of the planning permission of 2019-0851. Alterations and extensions to existing building and conversion to 20 flats. Anna, this is your report. Would you like to present it, please?
Thank you, Chair. So members may remember that we discussed this application on the 21st of January this year, and it was approved by committee for the Pierce Leather Works to be converted into flats. So remember this is the site plan, so the Leather Works here, and the rest has previously been developed into housing in the past. Just remind you, this is the building we're looking at. And again, just to remind you, this is the building in question. So this application is just to allow 2 offices to be used, in addition to being live work units, to be used by the management company for this block of flats. So it's just this office and this office to be allowed to be used by the management company of the flats. You'll note that these offices are accessed easily without going into any of the flats. They're not part of the flats and they are away from the units. There's been no objections from any statutory consultees and no neighbour letters received. And there was plenty of surplus parking in the original application. And therefore, it's considered that it should be approved to allow these 2 offices to be used also by the management company. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Anna. Right, we have 2 speakers on this. I call upon Councillor Chris Malpass to come to the fore and speak, if you can. Are you there, Councillor Malpass?
Councillor Malpass isn't part of the meeting, Chair. He's not here.
Oh, all right. Okay, then we go on to the next speaker, which is Mr. Andy Lord, please. Andy, are you there?
I am indeed, Chairman.
Yes. Would you like to identify yourself and in what capacity you speak, please, for the record?
I work for the applicant, Clayson Country Homes.
All right. Okay. Thank you. You have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'll try and be brief. My name is Andy Lord. I'm the development manager for Clayson Country Homes, who are the applicant for this Section 73 application before you for the Pierce Leather Works building, which we own. The previous approved scheme consented office areas within the existing building for live work use associated with the 20 residential units consented earlier this year. This application looks to broaden the use of the offices located, as the plan that Hannah showed earlier, in the centre of the building, to allow them to be used by the management company or entity associated with the building, and not just the 20 residents in a live work manner. The 2 office spaces provided in the centre of the building have no physical link to any of the approved dwellings, and therefore we feel they could be used appropriately by a management entity. There's been a lot of discussion tonight about the management of blocks, and we found as a business that having an office, a small office like this in a block for management purposes is a real useful benefit to the freehold owner. Just to clarify, this does not constitute a separate planning use, but does give us the scope to utilise the central areas of the building, which may actually suffer from not being taken up by the in a live work fashion due to their location. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Andy. And can I just say thank you for being patient and waiting for your turn to appear on stage. Thank you very much. Right, committee, has anybody got any questions of Mr. Lord, please?
No indications, Chair.
Thank you. Right, thank you, Andy. Thank you very much. I know it's only short and sweet, but waiting all that time, but thank you. Okay. Right, any questions to ask of Anna? Anyone? No?
No indications, Chair, no.
Right, comments committee. Any comments, please? Councillor Malcolm, Brian. Yeah, sorry, Jamie, I'll come in a minute. You've gone quiet, Brian.
Can I propose, Chair, that we accept the eminently sensible suggestions of the developer and planning officer?
Thank you. Do I take it you were going to second that, and Jamie?
Indeed.
Pardon?
Yes.
Say yeah.
I was, yes.
Okay, so we have a recommendation that we accept the officer's, sorry, we have a proposal and a second that we accept the officer's recommendation, that we accept it as it is. Do I have a show of hands that we're all in favour?
Well, 10 hands raised, Chair, but I have noticed Councillor Golby's not on video.
He did say we might be leaving earlier. He did text me saying he could well be leaving. He's probably left the meeting now. But you've got 10. Okay. So I think under the current situation, that is a unanimous vote. Thank you. Right. Last but by no means least, committee, we now come on to item 9A. 9I, it's senile dementia, which is on page 89, which is a location is 117 Upper Thrift Street. Change of use from a dwelling house to a house in multiple occupation to 6 occupants, and it's retrospective application. This is Nikki. This is your report. Would you present it, please? Nikki?
Sorry, I just lost you a bit there, Chair. Okay,
we're on
you.
9A, which is your report, 117 Upper Thrift Street. Would you present it, please?
Thank you, Chair. So this is the application site here. Again, we're looking at a mid-terrace property. This property backs onto Billing Road Cemetery in the conservation area. So this is property here. It's a 3-storey property. It's this one on the left-hand side, just there that you can see. And just a view from the rear in this property on the. And just to note, you can't quite see them, but there's steps there down into a basement and a window just behind them, which I'll come and show you now. So there you can see the steps going down to the basement room from the rear garden, quite a large window to the rear, and then there's also a glazed door into the basement there as well. So these are the proposed plans. This is the basement here. So this is supposed to be a kitchen dining room. You can see the window just there that I've been referring to in the rear door. There's also a small light well at the front of the property onto the street. In terms of the ground floor, you've got 2 bedrooms and a shower room. And then on the next floor up again, you've got 2 bedrooms and another shower room, and then the same repeated up on the second floor. Private sector housing have raised an objection. The level of amenities provided, the room sizes comply with our guidance. In terms of the kitchen and relationship with the second floor bedrooms, whilst it's some distance away, in terms of licensing requirements, the kitchen diner does meet the size requirements, and providing people can prepare their meals within the kitchen and have room to eat them within that same room, then private sector housing wouldn't raise concerns in respect of licensing. Also, part of licensing requirements, they would cover issues in respect of fire safety within the building. Concentration in relation to this property, this would result in a 9.6% concentration within the area, still below the 10% threshold set out in the council's guidance. Parking is on street within the area. Highways did request a parking beat survey. However, the applicant in this instance has provided a statement advising that the site is in a sustainable location. There's bus stops just to the south of the site on Billing Road, within approximately 124 metres of the site, and regular services into town from there. There's sufficient room it's got quite a lengthy rear garden, so there's sufficient room within the rear garden for refuse and cycle storage as well, and that would be required. The details of that would be required by condition. So officer opinion is the proposal complies with the council's policies and guidance, and therefore recommendation is for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Nikki. Committee, we have no speakers on this, so it's straight into questions to Nikki, if there are any, please. Councillor Kilbride, Andy, yeah.
Through you, Chair. I see this is retrospective. Could you just tell us why it is retrospective, please?
Nikki, yeah.
It is just that it's the situation that it is. There's nothing to stop people applying, as we've had come before committee before, applying retrospectively for consent. The applicant, unfortunately, in this instance, has chosen to carry out the works, but has subsequently submitted a planning application to apply for the proposed work, well, the works that they've done.
Chair, if I can just clarify that any works undertaken are, of course, at the applicant's own risk.
Okay.
Through you,
Right.
Chair.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a Hmo before?
Nikki,
No,
yeah.
the application is to convert it. It was originally a dwelling, so the application is for conversion from a dwelling to a Hmo, despite it being retrospective.
Thank you, Nikki.
Anyone else got any questions to Nikki, please?
Councillor Brian Markham, Chair.
Councillor Malcolm, Brian, yeah.
Trying to zoom in on the plans put up before us, and I noticed on the ground floor, it mentions shower room and other floors, but it just seemed, going back to the previous comment, I couldn't see whether the shower room on that floor, there's also a WC nearby or whatever, because we seem to be getting, it's easy to install a shower, maybe, or maybe it's just my age. Some people need shower rooms and some people need WCs. But is there a ground floor toilet as well as a shower room?
Nikki, yeah.
No, there's nothing on the ground floor. It's just the kitchen on the ground floor, and then you've got combined toilet shower rooms on each floor, so shared by all the double double bedrooms.
Chair, if I can just clarify, that means there's no toilet provision in the basement, but
Right.
there is a shower and WC on each of the other floors.
Yeah, I got that, Peter. Yeah, thank you very much. Right, anyone else got any questions to ask of Nikki, please?
No indications, Chair.
Okay, we now come on to comments committee. Comments, please.
Councillor Birch.
Councillor Birch. Jane.
These bedrooms look fairly large, fairly substantial. Can we just ensure that it is for single occupancy? Otherwise, we could end up with double the number.
I believe, Nikki, it says 6 at any one time, no more than 6.
Sorry, Chair, I thought we were on comments, but I'll come back.
Comment.
Yeah, there is a
comment.
condition to control the level of occupancy to 6. Yeah.
I should have said we're on condition 2 says that just that. Yeah, sorry, that was me. My fault. Yeah, we are on comments. Yeah.
Councillor Lane's indicating, Chair, and Councillor Brian Markham afterwards.
Okay, Councillor Lane. Jamie.
I was just going to propose we accept the officer's recommendation, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Markham. Brian, are you supporting that?
Councillor Markham, you need to put your microphone on.
Have you done it?
Am I on now, Chair?
Yeah, we've had a proposition from Councillor Lane that we accept the officer's recommendation.
Yeah, and I propose that subject to the conditions set out in the report, I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. We'll have a proposer on the table and a seconder committed. Do we have all those in favour of accepting the officer's recommendation, please?
I count 9 hands raised, Chair.
So 9-4. Is there anybody against? Anyone against?
No hands, Chair.
Any abstentions?
Councillor Hack is abstaining, Chair, just 1.
Thank you. So that is approved by that majority. Thank you very much. Right, so you're coming to your real good time now where you don't have to look at me anymore for tonight. There is no items for consultation. Northampton Partnership Homes, none, and exclusion of public and press, there's none. So I now declare the meeting closed. But